Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku faced his childhood friend as Venom? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Did you really think a quirkless loser like you could be a hero? A blonde boy said standing over Izuku. It was none other than his childhood friend. They were close growing up, since they were in diapers really. Everything they did was together. Though once Katsuki got his quirk, he changed. He got cocky and believed everyone was lower than him. He became rude towards everyone including Izuku but still always hung out with him. He began targeting Izuku once he was diagnosed quirkless. It slowly got worse over the years. Started with insults, then it got more physical when they hit middle school. Other kids joined Katsuki and teachers did dog shit to help. It was a shitty situation all the way around. Stupid Deku, the boy landed a strong kick to the smaller stomach. You are nothing, his words fell off his lips with venom. Why do you do this, Kachan? Izuku asked with a sob. What did I do? The boy in front of him froze in place with his fists balled up. He seemed conflicted. He looked behind him at his so-called friends. When he turned his head back, he had made a decision. He stuck his nose in the air and opened his hand, making small explosions in his palm. You're a quirkless loser. I don't do anything you deserve. Tears streaming down Izuku's face as he held onto his stomach, churning in pain. The blonde boy only smiled and kicked dirt in his face before walking away. His friends, following behind him, praising him and laughing. What part of this seemed funny? Stupid Kachan. Izuku stood up shakily and walked home from the park. When he got home, his mother welcomed him home with a warm smile. Dinner is almost ready, Izuku, the boy only nodded. As he was taking his shoes off, his mother stood in front of him with tears in her eyes. Izuku, what happened? The boy sighed and looked up. Just some kids at the park. I'm okay, Mom. His mother grabbed onto him, holding him tighter as she cried. Izuku froze in shock for a moment at her outburst of emotions but quickly hugged her back. His mother had a way to redirect his emotions with ease. No matter how upset he was, it didn't matter. My precious boy, I'll love you no matter what. I wish things could be different, Izuku smiled. I love you too, Mom, and I'm okay with not having a quirk. I can still be a hero, right? His mother smiled through her tears and rubbed his cheek gently with her thumb. During dinner, Inko didn't bring up his bruises and continued his meal. It wasn't uncommon Izuku came home with bruises. He was bullied since he was a kid for not having a quirk. He hated how different it made him from literally everyone else but tried not to let it get in the way of his dream of becoming a hero. Inko went on about her day while they ate dinner. Izuku loved hearing her talk. Her voice was always so calming and she was just a good woman to be around. Everyone loved her since she was so kind to everyone. When Izuku was still a kid, his mother would sing a lullaby whenever he was upset. It seemed to be the only things that really calmed him down. As he got older, she didn't do it as much, but he would still catch her humming it while she cooked or did chores. Her presence to anyone felt godly. She was so gentle with everything. When she had to bandage wounds on Izuku after another beating and when watering plants or doing literally anything. She's too kind for a world like this. Their dinner was disrupted by knocking on the door. The two exchanged confused expressions. Just by his mother's reaction, he knew that this wasn't planned. She wiped her face with her napkin and embracing Izuku on the forehead before answering the door. The second the door opened, the room fell silent. Hello, Inko. Izuku got up out of his seat and peeked around the corner, seeing who it could possibly be. He didn't recognize the man at the door. His hair was white and his smile that looked soft looks anything but kind. He looked at his mother frozen in place, gripping the door handle. It's been so long since I last saw you. Where is the boy? He's not home. Her voice was shaky and Izuku could see her hands trembling as the man took a step forward. Inko, let's not make this difficult. I know he's here. I just want to talk with my son. It's been 10 years after all. You didn't seem like you wanted to see him for 10 years. Why the sudden change of heart? Where is he? He's not. I know you're lying to me. Where is he? His voice was more demanding this time. I just want to chat. Inko turned around for a moment and looked at Izuku, who was around the corner. Izuku, come here. The boy came around the corner slowly. His nerves were shaken as he looked at his mother for reassurance. She had a smile on her face, but Izuku could see right through it. He ran to his mom's side, grabbing her hand. "Wow, you really got big," the man said. He reached out to touch him, but Inko slapped his hand. The man just chuckled. "How old are you now?" He looked up at his mom, who nodded. Her palm was sweaty in Izuku's. 12. "Mind if I come in?" Before Inko could reply, the man walked into the apartment, pushing Inko aside, two other men following behind him. Izuku held onto her tightly as the man tried to walk between them. "It's a lovely place you've got here," he said, looking around. Inko squeezed his hand twice, making Izuku's heart race. Growing up, Inko had told the boy over and over that as she squeezed his hand twice he had to run. He always thought it was weird that she asked that of him, but Izuku could feel the fear radiating off his mom. He slowly slipped his hand out of his mother's and looked at the door that was left unattended and still open. "I wouldn't do that," the man said, looking at a picture of the two of them. "Running might make this worse." Izuku looked up at his mom again and she gulped. "You got to see him, you can leave now," he said as he put the picture down. "I've had a change of heart, he's gonna be coming with me. Over my dead body." He sighed and looked at one of his men. "If you insist." Before he could think, he watched his mother get grabbed and pinned to the ground. How would you like to come live with me, kiddo?" "I want to stay with Mom." "Sadly, that's not an option for you." "Izuku, run!" his mother yelled before getting hit. Either adrenaline coursing through his body, he turned and ran out the door, slamming it behind him, hoping it would slow them down. He ran down a flight of stairs, not turning back until he heard footsteps chasing after him. Tears streamed down his face and he barreled out of the building doors and running with all his might. His legs hurt and his lungs burned. He didn't know where he was running, but he didn't stop. He got to a park that had a police station near it. As he went to turn to head to the station, he fell into the gravel face first. He went to stand as a hand grabbed him by the back of the neck as he tried to fight them off. Kicking and punching was no use when he was attacking a man that was huge compared to him. They quickly covered his mouth as they dragged and threw him into a car. He sobbed into the corner of the car as the man sat next to him. He pulled on the handle of the other side of the car but had no luck. The car started driving while the man next to him yelled at him for crying. Soon the passenger door opened and the man from earlier entered the car. His hands were red now and he had a set-off expression. Everything inside Izuku's mind was screaming at him to get out, but he couldn't. "If you keep crying, I'll give you something to cry about," the white-haired man said, not looking back at him. Izuku covered his mouth, muffling his sobs. He didn't know where they were going until a large light shined out his window. The man got out of the passenger seat once the car stopped and grabbed Izuku by the arm with a grip that would definitely leave a bruise. "You see that, Izuku?" The boy looked up and the blood ran from his face. "This is what happens when you don't listen to me." The building on fire in front of him forced larger tears out of his eyes, but he didn't make a sound. His home was in a blaze of fire and all he could hear was screaming and the cracking of the fire. "Mom?" he said breathlessly. "You won't be needing her anymore. We are gonna change the world, Izuku. You and I." "What did you do? What did you do to my—" "I did what had to be done. You're a monster. We all have monsters inside us. One day this will all make sense. Don't you trust your father?" "You are not my dad." He stood straight and sighed. "Let's go home." The room was cold. There wasn't any light besides the shitty lamp in the corner. Izuku was curled into a ball, hugging his knees with puffy eyes. The tears had finally stopped, but he knew it was only a matter of time before they would come back. The door clicked open, making Izuku stiffen as the man from before walked in. He said nothing as the door shut behind him. "I'm sorry it had to be this way, son." Izuku didn't reply, just sniffed and twirled his fingers. "I can help you." "With what?" "I can give you a quirk." The boy looked him dead in the eyes. "I don't want anything from you. Aren't you tired of getting beat on for being weak? Aren't you tired of people looking at you with sadness because you didn't get a quirk? I can still be a hero without a quirk. Not in this world, son. You don't get to call me that. I'm your father. You hurt people. I did what I had to do. You kill my mom. I didn't kill her." Izuku looked up at him. "You did." Tears filled his eyes once more as he looked back down. "I warned you that if you ran, it wouldn't go well. Her blood in on your hands. You're just as much of a killer as I am. I'm nothing like you. Not yet. The door opened and two men came in and grabbed Izuku. He kicked and screamed trying to get them off of him as they dragged him to another room that was blindingly white. He was thrown into a chair as they strapped down his wrists, ankles and head to the chair. He thrashed trying to get one but there was no use. Let me go. I want to go home. You are home now. A sharp pain stung his neck as the world started going dark. Alter his memories. I don't need a disobedient child, was the last thing the boy heard as everything went back. What do you mean Inko is in the hospital? Katsuki heard his mother yell. A fire broke out in her apartment building. She was covered in burns and hardly alive when we found her. You were her emergency contact, so we came here right after. Oh my god, how is Izuku? The police officer went quiet. He's missing. What do you mean he's missing? Mom? The woman turned to see Katsuki standing behind her. What happened to Deku? Go play in your room, mommy has to go. We have to help look for Izuku. Katsuki dash. He's probably scared, Mom. We need to find him. We are looking everywhere, kid. We will find your friend. Katsuki balled his hands into fists. Why does he care so much for a nobody? Who would even take a worthless kid? He couldn't help but feel guilty all of a sudden. The two weren't on good terms, but Katsuki didn't want him to disappear. We are doing everything we can to find him. Don't worry, kid, the cop said, but something inside Katsuki knew that he was gone. Deku woke up on the cold ground again and his head pounded like never before. He wanted to cry from how bad it hurt as he grabbed his head trying to ease the pain, but it didn't help. Izuku had no idea how long it had been. Time was jumbled since he couldn't tell if it was daytime or night. He looked up, noticing a tiny green light in the corner of the room. Is that a camera? The door opened again as the man he knew as his father entered the room. Izuku pushed himself back until he was against a wall. His vision was blurry and limbs were aching with a burning heat. It's good to see you awake, the boy said nothing and just held his throbbing head. It's gone hurt until your body gets used to the new quirk? Just take a few deep breaths, he said, stepping closer to him. His mind felt so out of order and his mind was racing. What did you do? The boy said breathlessly as tears streamed down his face. Gave you 2 quirks, first one being a muscle enhancement, the second one I call it exploding BLD, basically dash. Yeah, I got the gist of it, he said through clenched teeth. I thought you would be happy to finally have a quirk. I didn't want it like this, he sobbed. It hurts. Everywhere. I know, it will for a couple days. Once you've adjusted to it we can dash. I don't want dash. A hand was wrapped around his throat and was pinned to the wall, his feet not touching the ground, and he choked for air. You will not interrupt me. I've been generous with your attitude until now. I will no longer be tolerating it. Understand? He was dropped, leaving Izuku to collapse to the ground, coughing for air. Perhaps we need to play with your mind more. No, he said, panic flowing into his body. No, I don't want to forget. His previous memories were already a blur. Every time he came back, more and more of his thoughts didn't feel like his own. Take him. Once again the boy was desperately trying to get out of the men's grasp. This is your fault. A voice in his head yelled at him. Your mom is dead because you can't follow basic instructions. Like the days before, he was thrown into the chair again as he sobbed and begged them to let him go. Like the last time. Everything went dark. Every time he was dragged into that room his mind was more fuzzy and his memories felt out of place. After a week he learned that no matter how much he begged and cried, nothing would stop. Every day he was taken to that room where he would come back more confused. When he woke up he felt a rage in his ist that felt out of place but also at home. They eventually stopped having to drag him as he would walk willingly. After a month his father started helping him train his new quirk. Good job, you're getting the hang of it, Izuku breathed as his arms were covered in his BLD. He was dizzy from the BLD loss and the non-stop training and experiments, but pushed forward, trying to take down his opponent. His new quirk wasn't fit for his body, so the BLD lose hit him harder than a normal BLD quirk. It made this a hell of a lot harder for him, but it was what it was. He pinned a man down, breathing heavily as he looked down at the man. Now use your quirk. The man has fear spread across his face at the realization. Dread pooled into Izuku's gut, realizing his father wanted him to kill this man in the name of training. Don't kill him. He could have a family. Izuku's heart raced. Was he seriously about to bloody his hands? You've killed before, this is nothing new. Izuku didn't remember killing anyone. He looked at the man below him who had a pleading look. Don't you remember? A hand was placed on his shoulder. You had to kill your mother. She was gonna kill you if you didn't. That was Dash. You've killed that man that betrayed us. He's no better. He's a traitor to our cause. Our cause? The new world, a world where people like us don't have to hide. He was gonna stop us. He was gonna kill you. I wasn't. The man cried. Do it. Izuku. He was gonna hurt you, hurt your family. Izuku grabbed his head, trying to quiet his mind and the voices running through it. Give me a moment. You have to, Izuku. Please, I have kids. You don't want him to destroy everything we've built, do you? You have to kill him. Izuku, he's a hero. Don't you remember what heroes did to you? A hero? An unbearable rage and heat coursed through his veins as the man suddenly combusted into flames in front of the two of them. Izuku just watched as the man screamed in pain. His mind suddenly get numb. The burning was still there but subsided a lot. You killed him. Didn't you want to be a hero? Shut up, Izuku said, holding his head as his breathing picked up. The face of a green-haired woman entered his mind, sending sharp pain through his head. He fell to his knees, holding his head in pain. His father looked down at him, narrowing his eyes. You should go see the doctor. He can help with the pain. As Izuku went to stand, he saw the pool of BLD beneath him and pass out. His father looked down at him, realizing the boy had probably lost too much BLD during this training, and sighed. He called some men over who picked him up and dragged him away. Doctor? A fragile old man came around the corner. His memories are still interfering. Did you give him the memories I told you to give him? Yes, sir, but it seems like something is fighting it off. Fix it, I need him ready. Of course, all for one. 2 years later. Deku frantically wrote in his notebook, taking notes of a hero he saw on the news. He scratched his head, thinking before continuing his notes. He sat at a bar that was run down. He didn't drink, but it was connected to his home and was the most normal-looking room. His head turned when he saw a blue-haired man walk in and sat on the other side of the bar. Tamura Shigaraki, also known as a literally toddler. Lady is so annoying. He said, give me a whiskey on the rocks, he told the bartender, who was mostly a purple mist with yellow eyes. Kurogiri, change the channel, I don't want to watch this CRP. Do not change the channel, Izuku said, not looking up from his notebook. If you want to watch the heroes so bad, then find another TV. This is the only TV we have in the building, and I'm clearly working. On your stupid notebook? Shigaraki got up and went to grab the book, but Deku stabbed the counter in front of the older man. Touch my book and I'll turn you to charcoal. You little dash. Tamura, the master had given this assignment to Deku. We cannot change the channel. Shigaraki and Deku never got along. Deku considered him to be more of a child. To him, Shigaraki is nothing more than a spoiled brat. You shouldn't be fighting with your brother, Tamura. The other will be upset. Shigaraki groaned with annoyance and grabbed his jacket. Where are you going? Out. He slammed the door behind him, and Deku sighed before getting back to work on his notes. Just as he went to go back to his notes, his phone rang, making him annoyed. He checked who it was and seeing there was no caller ID. He quickly answered and put his pencil down. Hello, father. Deku, would you come down to the lab? I have a gift for you. Yes, sir. I'll be right there. Deku hung up and finished his notes and headed down. The further you get into this maze of a building, the more of a nightmare it looked like. Cracked walls, garbage in the corners, and dim lights. Not the most pleasant place. He opened the door to the lab and walked in, seeing the doctor standing next to his father. You took a while. He didn't seem pleased by that. Dex said nothing and just handed him a notebook with the number 12 written on it. That seemed to make his father more open. The notes are complete. I had to add final touches before I came down. Sorry for making you wait. Not an issue at all, he said as he flipped through the pages with a wide grin. Doctor, it's time. He closed the book and Deku followed behind them to the back of the lab. I've been working on a little project for you. It took a while to perfect, but we finally completed it. The doctor said. He led them around the corner and Deku's eyes widened at the sight. A costume completely created for you. It's been a while since you've been able to be back on the field from your injury? Deku didn't remember getting an injury, but who was he to question his father? He would never lie to him. It made of a material that is not flammable and very tough. We made a space for your blades since you seem to enjoy using those and a mask to hide your identity. Deku walked up to it, feeling the fabric that was both thick and thin at the same time. It seemed durable and cool-looking. Deku jumped up and down excited and hugged his father. "Thank you, father. I can't wait to get back on the field." "Go try it on." Deku hurried to put on the costume. It was black and had short sleeves and cargo breaths that could hold various weapons. He put the gloves on that had metal lining his knuckles and the mask that covered his entire head and face. It was 2 pieces, but Deku loved it nonetheless. He came out and his father looked him up and down with a nod. "Fits like a glove," Deku nodded. "Now that you have your suit, I have a job for you." "Whatever you need, father." The words fell out of Deku's lips on their own. "There is a hero who is starting to notice us. Will you take care of him for me?" There's that burning feeling again. "Who is it?" "Native, that hero." Honestly, Deku didn't understand the hype of the hero. He didn't know his quirk. As far as he knew, he was one of the most useless heroes ever. "You think you can handle it?" "Yeah, I can do it. A few rules just to make sure you remember. Avoid any other hero besides your target. Don't kill any hero aside from your target. Avoid the press and don't get caught on camera." "Sound good?" Deku nodded and put his mask back on. "I'll see you when you return." Deku skipped out of the room, happy to be of use and to leave the building. It felt like years since he last saw the sun. Sadly, he doesn't get to see it. He left at night trying to avoid any confrontation, and his black suit made it easier. The outside world felt different, like he hasn't been out in years. As much as he wanted to just stand outside breathing the fresh air and admiring the city, he had a job to do. He tapped on his phone, making sure that his target was where he was supposed to be, and headed over. He walked through a dark alley, light on his feet, until he heard talking from the main sidewalk. He got down and clung to the wall as he saw his target walking with another hero. His veins felt like they were on fire suddenly. He had to take a few deep breaths before continuing. "Don't get caught. Don't get caught." Izuku clenched his teeth, ignoring the voice in his head, and grabbed a rock and threw it. The 2 heroes looked down the alleyway. "I'll be right back." "Dude, it's probably a stray," the hero my target was with said. "I'll be quick. I'll catch up with you." The hero sighed and continued to walk. Native, on the other hand, walked down the alleyway. "Perfect. Kill him now." "Not yet. He needs to get closer." He walked down carelessly as if there wasn't a threat, which would definitely be his downfall. The closer the hero got, the more his body burned. Once he was close enough, Deku grabbed his blade and cut his arm. He bit his lip, ignoring the pain as his BLD started to flow out of the wound. Just as he got close, Deku flung the BLD at him, making the man stumble back confused. "What the hell?" He looked down, seeing the red on his costume, and back at the boy leaning against the wall. "Who dash?" Deku closed his fists and the hero instantly went up in flames. Deku couldn't help but to watch him flail his arms, unable to do anything. He had it coming. "Stupid heroes." He screamed as the fire consumed him, and Deku just got out of the alley and watched from a distance, making sure the man died. Once he collapsed to the ground, Deku was gone. The burning feeling was gone as well. He felt relieved killing that hero. When he returned, he had a wide smile and put his mask on the counter of the bar and spinning in his chair. "You seem to be in a good mood," Kurojiri said. "That mission was so fun. Can I get chocolate milk, please?" The mist hummed and filled the glass. Deku tapped his feet as he drank the milk and thanked him before going to find his father. Pro-hero, Native, was found dead in an alleyway. It seems he was burned by flames and there was no trace of the suspect. Katsuki ate his cereal watching the news. It became a habit to watch the news, hoping that there would be something on Izuku, but there never was. The case went cold after a week, and he was never brought up by the press ever again. Inko healed up fine and had been staying with the Bakugos until she could get back on her feet. Katsuki hugged and grabbed his bag, not bothering to say goodbye as he left for school. It didn't take long for people to continue their lives after Izuku went missing. Class was back to normal after 2 days. It was almost as if he was never there to begin with. People started avoiding Katsuki though. They looked at him like a monster, which he didn't disagree with. All he did was make Izuku's life miserable, and now that he's gone, Katsuki's popularity status was in shambles. Today you will be choosing your high schools. Fill out your forms and hand them back to me when you're finished, his teacher said. Katsuki already knew where he wanted to go, the same place as Izuku. UA High. One of the most prestigious schools in Japan. It was the only high school he put in his form before handing it back. After what happened to Izuku, Katsuki knew he had to become a hero. He didn't want this to happen to anyone again. And he would make sure that didn't. Walking home from school, 2 kids that followed him around every day still clung to his side. It annoyed Katsuki, but he just kept his head down. Hey Kachan, wanna go to the arcade? I have to study. You're always studying though, let yourself have some fun. Those entrance exams are something I need to study for. An idiot like you wouldn't know that though. Well yeah, but you also need a break. I can't. I have to get into that school. For you or Deku? Katsuki turned around with a glare. Look man, ever since Deku went missing you dash. Shut up. Kachan dash. I said shut up. Katsuki said, forming explosions in his palms. He friends sighed and turned around. We're here if you ever need to talk. With that they walked away. Katsuki turned around, walking the opposite direction, cussing to himself. They had no right bringing Deku up. And Katsuki knew he had no place to be mad. He made Izuku's life hell and now he was gone. That kid never got a break. And it's all his fault. He walked down the busy sidewalk, putting his earbuds in and putting on some music. Once he looked up, his eyes widened when he saw a glimpse of messing green hair. Deku? He said to himself. He ran through the people trying to find the person again. He combed his fingers through his hair, frustrated, until he saw it again. He ran to him, putting his hand on the boy's shoulder and turning him around. Deku? The boy turned around with a confused expression. I'm sorry, do I know you? This wasn't Izuku. He retracted his hand and looked away. Sorry, I thought you were someone else. He walked away, squeezing his eyes shut and opening them to look at the sky. I'm sorry, Deku. The music was loud. Deafening is a better description. Deku was tinkering with his suit and making upgrades with materials he had stolen from various places. He's been put on many missions after he got his suit. He was getting tired of having to grab his blade to use his quirk. His last encounter with a hero, he had his blade kicked from him. He had to bit into his hand until there was BLD, and that wasn't not the most fun thing. He now had a scar by his thumb from it. He decided to make a bracelet with a razor inside. All he would have to do was pull a wire and he had all the BLD he needed. He didn't hear the knocking on the door and was startled when he saw Shigaraki standing next to him. For F's sakes, Tamura. Mster would like to see, what the hell are you doing? Upgrading. Mr. won't be very happy about that. Whatever. Deku stood up, pushing past his brother. His father says. They weren't BLD related at all. More like my father found a sad kid and took him in and raised him. How he's a brat. And he's older. As they both went down to their father, going down the elevator, Deku could hear Tamura scratching his neck, making him cringe. Can you stop that? What? You're scratching. It sounds like nails on a chalkboard. Esike it up. God, you're a child, he said under his breath as the door opened. What did you say to me? I don't know what you're talking about. You little dash. Tamura, calm down, father spoke sternly. I understand you two don't get along, but at least act like it. Shigaraki, you need to get a hold of your temper. Aim your passive-aggressive comments at the heroes. Sorry, Mr. Sorry, father. Anyways, I need your input on something. Follow me. The two walked beside each other, not saying a word as they followed him into the lab. This here is what I'm calling a Nomu. Deku looked up in awe at the large figure that was in a large tube with a liquor he couldn't identify. What does it do? Tamura, anything you want. I heard from a little birdie that All Might will be a teacher at UA this year. So we are working on this to make it strong enough to take him down. All Might. That burning feeling is back. Kill him, kill All Might. What exactly can it do? Deku asked, pulling out a notepad. We are giving it all the quirks it needs, regeneration, strength, and speed. There are a few more things we need to do dash. I apologize for interrupting, father. But have you considered shock absorption? His father narrowed his eyes at the boy but decided not to do anything, considering it wasn't a bad idea. Wonderful idea, it's not complete yet. Once it is, you two will be sent out with it and I expect it to come back with you. Understood, the two said at the same time. All for one continued to talk about the Nomu as Deku took notes. When they finished, Deku was sent out to find another hero to kill. Xless was his name. Izuku stood over a building waiting for the hero to leave his agency as he ate the burger. He whistled a tune that came to his mind as he checked with binoculars. He watched the hero wave to his sidekicks as he walked away. Izuku shoved the last bit of food into his mouth and put his mask on ready to get to work. Izuku tailed the man from a distance, not wanting to draw attention. As he walked alongside the hero from the alleyways, Xless started looking around. He could probably feel Deku's gaze. "Hello," he said into the void of an alleyway. "Is someone there?" Deku can feel the unease coming from the man, making him giggle. "Show yourself." Deku slowly walked out of the alley as the hero took a step back, getting into a fighting stance. "Who are you?" "A friend," Izuku replied with a giggle. "Kill him. Slaughter him. That's the plan." "What's the plan?" "Don't worry about that, hero," he giggled. The way the boy said hero sounded more like a slur to the Xless. Deku could see the sweat beading on his forehead. Once the hero went to reach in his pocket, Deku lunged and kicked in the ST, making B land in the alleyway. Whatever he went to grab was in his hand and had a blinking red light. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Deku didn't reply and instead pulled the wire that cut his wrist. BLD flowed down his arm and the hero moved back. "I'm only gonna ask you one more time. Who are you?" "The one that killed your pathetic friends." Deku lunged at him again, this time a dagger in hand. The hero activated his quirk, shooting a laser that Deku dodged with ease. "You call yourself a hero when you can even land a hit?" Deku flung his BLD on the hero and jumped back. "What is this?" the hero said, looking at the BLD that was now all over him. Boom! Deku closed his fist, and like usual the man combusted into flames and the part that had BLD exploded on his body. He collapsed to the ground and Deku turned around. "Freeze, sheet. Run, run, run." Deku sprinted, but two heroes were on his tail. He flung BLD on the ground and created a firewall between them. One hero ran through and landed a strong punch to Deku's jaw. "Father is gonna kill you." Deku clenched his teeth and pulled out two little discs and threw them on the ground. Once motion was detected, an electric shock went through the hero that punched him. As much as Deku wanted to kill him, he wasn't the target and father would get mad. He tried to run again, but the second hero came behind him and pinned him to the ground. He clenched his teeth and tried to push him off. The hero grabbed his wrist, squeezing it, making the wound bleed more. "Get out, get out, get out." "I'm trying." Just then Deku realized. This man is touching his BLD. "You're under arrest for the murder of Dash." Boom! His hand was blown off as flames cauterized the wound. He yelled in pain and Deku kicked him to a wall. His ankle was grabbed and Deku flung BLD at him, but a shield got in the way. "Goddamn crust. The stupid shield hero." He kicked the hero in the face and exploded the BLD, but it did nothing. "Are you the one that's killed all those heroes? Father's gonna kill you." "I know." The hero looked at him confused, giving Deku the opportunity to stab his arm and run. His jaw hurt like a beach, but he couldn't do anything about that. His father is gonna kill him for this. It was the first time he's been caught. Who knows what will happen? Deku got to the roof of a building and plopped down with heavy breathing. "Well, shit. That went horribly. He's gonna take your quirk back." "I doubt it, he needs me too much." "He will punish you." I'm fully aware the voices in his head never actually sounded like him. It depended on the situation. When he needs to run or escape or any form of panic, a female voice is there screaming at him. When he needs to kill people or discouraging, it was a rough male voice. He didn't recognize them, but they were there and he couldn't do anything about it. "You're dead." "I know." Deku sat in front of his father, who was visibly sad. They've been sitting there in silence for what felt like hours, while on the TV you could hear the reporter talking about him. "Explain yourself." His voice sent chills up Deku's spine, making him shiver and gulp. "I killed the target, and before I did, he managed to call for backup. I wasn't caught on camera. Dash. You blew off one of the hero's hand. He had me pinned. If I didn't act, I would have been caught." He rubbed his forehead, frustrated. "Next time you get caught, don't expect me to let you off the hook." "Get out." Deku stood up and left the office and heading to his room. He sighed and looked at all the materials he had. If he runs into crust again, he doubts he will get out of it. Then it hit him. Bombs. He scavenged his materials and groaning when he didn't have what he was looking for. He tapped his fingers on his chin thinking when he got an idea. He ran to the bar and found Kurogiri cleaning glasses and putting them back on the shelf. Is that all he does? Hey Kurogiri, I need your help. How may I help you? Can you warp me to the scrapyard? Pretty please. Has your father given you permission? Look, I need to make something and I don't have what I need. I'll be quick. Father doesn't need to know right now. It can be our secret. Kurogiri sighed and opened a gate. You have 10 minutes. That's all the time I need, he said, grabbing a milk crate. Thank you. When Deku got back, Shigaraki was waiting at his room door with a menacing smile. Deku ignored him and went to his room. As he was about to close the door behind him, Shigaraki entered and closed it. Doing things behind the emister back, I wonder what he would think about that. Snitch, Deku said under his breath. He would have said yes if he wasn't in a bad mood, Deku said, not looking back at him. And whose fault is it that he said? Deku sighed. Did you come here to lecture me or be useful for once? I've do more around here than you have, broccoli. Wow, how original. I definitely haven't heard that one before, Deku said sarcastically. Don't get full of yourself because you're the MSTA's BLD child. Sure, Tamura. Useless kid that set a fire in Deku City. Quirkless loser. The voice was sharp and sent pain through his temples, but shook it off and turned to Shigaraki, who has a wide grin. Let's remember something, Tamura. You're 21 and have a very strong decay quirk. I'm 15 and born quirkless, and yet, give me the difficult tasks because you can't handle them since you're such a spoiled brat. With that, Shigaraki lunged at Deku as he took off his glove. Deku moved, making Shigaraki destroy my dresser. He used his gloved hand to push himself up and ran at him again. Deku grabbed his wrist, pulling him, making him destroy my door. People are always more readable when they're angry. Seriously, Shigaraki, I need privacy. You can get that when you're effing dead. Deku pulled the wire in his bracelet as Shigaraki grabbed him and threw him out the door. They stood on opposite sides of the hall, BLD dripping down Deku's arm and Shigaraki breathing with rage. He came at Deku again and he flung his BLD. Before anything made contact with either of them, his BLD went through a purple warp and Shigaraki's hand went past his head in another. Have you two learned nothing? Kurogiri said, walking down the hall. Your father would be furious to know this happened. Shigaraki took his hand back and I took a few steps back. Both of you go to your rooms. He started it. Like effie toddler, Tamura. Shut up. Be quiet, both of you. It wasn't often Kurogiri yelled, so when he did they knew not to continue. He destroyed my door and dresser. When can I get replacements? Deku said calmly, not trying to poke at Tamura more. I'll get that sorted. Now go to your rooms. Can I go see the doctor? Fine. The two walked away in separate direction. Deku could hear Tamura muttering something but didn't bother trying to understand it. As Deku got to the doctor's, he was greeted by the short old man. Hey, I was wondering if I could get some of my BLD. Why would you need that? I'm wanting to build bombs that explode at my will. I was hoping to try and infuse the bombs with my BLD to make it. What a bright boy. Sit down. How much do you need? 4 vials? I can do that. He's said to be wearing a rabbit-like mask and in all black. He has killed many heroes and people are calling him the rabbit. No one knows who it could be under the mask, but he's armed and very dangerous. If seen, please. It's scary knowing someone is out there targeting heroes. Bakugo looked up at his mom, who was watching the TV. She seemed stressed about the situation, but Katsuki didn't really care. If he saw the stupid rabbit, he would kill him. I gotta go. I have the physical part of the entrance exam. Right, well, you be careful and do your best. His mother went to hug him, but he turned away to walk out but got his ear grabbed. Get back here and give your mother a hug. Let go of me, you hag. One hug. No. His mother smothered him until he got out of her grasp and glared back at her. I love you. Whatever. Have fun, Katsuki. I will, auntie. She gets a thank you and if I jerty or whatever? How is that fair? He slammed the door and started walking to the school. He aced the written portion of the exam already and knew that he was already getting into this school. He was too good to let go. The exam was fairly easy and he counted 77 points. The sun was setting and he decided to get a drink from a convenience store. He decided on a plain red Gatorade and paid before he continued his walk home. As he tilted his head up to drink some, he noticed something on top of a building. It looked a lot like a human, but the frame from here didn't look like any heroes he knew off the top of his head. He started walking closer to get a better view. The person was sitting on the edge of the building with a black mask with two long tails at the top that looked like a rabbit. Who the hell? Said to be wearing a rabbit-like mask and in all black. He heard that on the TV this morning. Is that the rabbit? He went to open his phone to take a photo, but by the time he pointed his camera up, the person was gone. Deku on top of a building scouting out the area. The sun hadn't fully set quite yet, which means he probably shouldn't be outside yet, but it's been 2 weeks since he was given an assignment he had to get out. Deku hummed his tune and looked down at everyone minding their business and trying to get home to their families. He felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up and looked down at someone who was staring up at him. Suddenly his head got loud, like someone was screaming into his ear, making him fall back a bit. What the hell? He peeked over the edge again, seeing the boy still standing there, making his head hurt more. He's got to get out of here. He jumped off the roof and down to the ground into an alley, holding his head, trying to control his breathing as his mind screamed at him. By the time his mind shut up, it was fully dark out. He hopped back up and made his way to his target's agency. As much as Deku wanted to investigate, he didn't have the time, considering the sun and almost fully set and he wasn't anywhere near Crust's agency yet. Father wanted me to get rid of the people that saw him. It was only 2 people, but it was too risky for them to keep talking about him. He watched closely, looking into Crust's office, debating jumping in or waiting him out. Either way, he was the perfect test subject for Deku's new gear. He found that even when his BLD is dried, it still can explode, which made these bombs easier to make. He tapped his fingers together, contemplating his next actions. He could go in guns blazing, or chuck a bomb into there, or wait for him to leave. Either way, it would finish the job. Inside the agency was too risky anyways. Cameras were everywhere and there's probably motion detectors, so he can't get close. Even if he got the bomb inside it, he might use his shield and all his sidekicks would come looking into his office. That would draw way too much attention. So he's left to just wait. You should jump in and blow his butt up. That's more stupid than smart. He's a hero, it's your job to kill him. Yes, but if I just jump in there, I'll just die. Such a baby, can't do one job. Shut up, I'm doing it now. You're sitting around doing nothing. Shut up, Kachan. Deku said, throwing a dagger at the ground. He huffed for a moment before realizing something. Who the hell is Kachan? His head suddenly started hurting again, making him fall to the ground. Father said it happens when my quirk is too pent up. My body wasn't made for this quirk, so it made enough sense. Deku didn't have time to think too strong on it when he saw Crust's office lights turn off. Finally, he put his mask on and ignored the pain through his head and jumped down. Crust was an eco-friendly kind of guy and didn't have a car. He didn't live too far from his agency and enjoyed walking home. Many people told him he shouldn't go alone, but he didn't really care. He truly believed that he could take Rabbit down the next time they met. Deku attached his new gear and aimed at the hero walking down the sidewalk. He took a deep breath, praying the gear would work, and pulled the trigger. Just his luck. It didn't work. The second Crust was beside an alleyway. Deku came flying towards him, feet forward, and kicking him into the alleyway, making him stumble back, hitting the ground. His expression hardened when he saw Deku standing there. I was wondering when you'd show yourself again, the hero said, standing up. What can I say? I don't like loose ends. With that, Deku pulled his wire and ran at the hero. Crust up on a shield and Deku flicked BLD onto it and exploding it. As expected, it did nothing. Deku looked at his disc shooter and hit it a few times before Crust punched him into a wall, causing it to break. Deku stood up, laughing like a crazy person as he felt BLD dripping down his head, soaking his mask. He turned to Crust, who was ready to punch him again. With a loud bang like that and a wall crumbling, Deku expected heroes to come soon. Meaning he's got to deal with this quick. Is that all you got? Crust yelled. Deku looked at his gear, hitting it one more time, making a disc fly out and hit a wall. Seriously? You missed, might as well test it. He closed his fist and a loud, huge explosion made the walls crumble some more. Oh, he's gonna get in sheet for drawing so much attention. His disc shooter reloaded itself, making Deku believe it must be working. He took a small grenade out of one of his pockets and ran towards the hero. Crust quickly dodged and kicked the kid away. Deku recovered quickly and flicked more BLD onto the hero, making him put up a shield around him. With that opportunity, Deku activated his quirk and threw the grenade at his feet. The hero released his shield and smiled wildly. "You call yourself a villain?" Pain shot through his temple. "What is with this happening so much today?" "No, just Deku." He closed his fist, making the grenade explode, blowing up the entire side of the building. The hero was now on the ground, gasping for air. His wounds were deep and his legs had been blown off. Who knew Deku's BLD mixed with gunpowder would pack that much of a punch? Nothing personal. Deku stood over the hero, who had no strength and breathing ragged. He probably had a collapsed lung with all that BLD coming from his mouth. He squeezed around his wrist, making BLD drip onto his body, his ST and face, making the hero turn his head. As he walked away, he closed his fist, making the hero go up in flames. He dropped down into the sewer and walked through, humming his tune. He passed by rats and insects that lived down there. He wasn't a big fan of them, so when one got too close, he just kicked it away. He got out once he was on the other side of the city where the other hero was. Kesajiri man. Since he lost his hand, he was kind of forced into being retired. Oops. Deku didn't want to deal with that whole thing again, so this time when he saw the hero in his office at his agency, he just threw in one of the bombs. Deku was pretty sure the only reason Crust survived the blast was because of his quirk. Time to test that. The hero looked at the bomb and picked it up, inspecting it. But it wasn't very long before it blew up his entire office. Deku didn't have the time to check to see if he was dead, but the news will tell him tomorrow. If he's not dead already. Once Deku got home, his father was in the bar waiting. "Oh, he's in real shit. What the hell, Deku?" His voice was stern. Deku sat at a booth as his father towered over him. 2 buildings turned to dust. "I got the targets? How the hell did you do it?" Deku pulled off his disc shooter and emptied his pockets full of grenades. "I made these. My BLD mixed with some gunpowder." "Why did you make this?" "Crust was able to withstand my quirk on his own with his shields. You told me to kill him, so I had to get creative." Deku felt a sharp pain on his cheek, making him stumble back. Did his father just hit him? Never once has this man hit him. It shocked him. "Improve this, I don't want another one of today." "You're lucky you're smarts." His father walked out and Kurojiri came to his side with a first aid kit. "Allow me to tend to your wound." "Thanks, Kurojiri." Katsuki had started at UA a month ago. His classmates seemed too hyper and positive, making him look at them in disgust. As usual, one of his classmates, known as Tenya Ida, was lecturing him about having his feet on the desk. Katsuki ignored him, putting his earbuds in until his teacher entered the class. He wasn't anywhere near an interesting guy. He normally looked homeless and slept in a corner in a sleeping bag when the class was doing work. If Katsuki didn't know any better, he would say the man hated his job. "Alright class, today we are going on a field trip to the USJ to do rescue training. Grab your costumes and I'll meet you guys at the bus." With that, the teacher walked out. The student grabbed the costumes and changed into them before meeting at the bus and finding their seats. Ida, as class rep, was trying to do assigned seating, but no one really listened and sat where they wanted to. "Hey Bakugo," a red-haired kid said. "Ejiro Kirishima." The guy has been attached to Katsuki's hip since day one. Along with another kid, Denki Kaminari. As much as Bakugo didn't want them around, he didn't really get a choice in the matter. They stuck to him like glue. "You excited? The USJ is awesome. It's just more training." "Shitty hair. Don't get too excited." "Yeah, but no one goes in there unless it's training, so it should be cool." "It's just another training building, nothing special." "Sparky. Why are you so mean all the time?" Kaminari said with a pout. "Because I'm stuck with you 2 idiots all the demon time." Kaminari crossed his arms. "Rude. Bakugo just takes his training very seriously," Kirishima said with a toothy grin. "Alright, everything should be ready. Tamura, the Nomu will be under your control. Don't disappoint me." Deku looked at large amount of thugs in the base. They all shared a Smiley's hatred towards All Might, which would hopefully make this mission easy. Based off the information they got, All Might should be showing at the training grounds of the USJ. With the Nomu fully ready to go, now was probably the best time to do this. Deku, you are to kill any hero you come across, Deku nodded before looking back at the group. You hear that, Deku? I'm the one in control. Do you want to congratulate you or something? A cookie perhaps? I'm the leader of this group. Of this league, so you better listen to me. Whatever, Tamura seemed annoyed that Deku didn't seem to care as much as he hoped. This will be the last time you see me for a while. After this mission I will have no choice but to go underground. I hope the two of you will get along while I'm gone. Don't worry, father, I won't instigate anything. Good, Kurogyri, I think it's time with that. A large warp opened, allowing all the thugs walk through it. Hey Tamura, just a reminder. You may be the leader, but I'm the one who pulls the strings. The man glared down at him. See you on the other side, Deku said with an innocent smile as he walked through the gate. When he got to the other side, he was in a dome-shaped building with many different disasters. This building was for rescue training, so it made sense. He looked up at the top of the stairs, seeing a group of people looking down at them conversing. Shigaraki came through the gate with a hand on his face. Something that grossed out Deku, but now wasn't the time for slandering him about it. It didn't take long for a man in all black and yellow goggles to jump down to them with his hair raised up. Deku tilted his head, trying to figure out who he was. He seemed to have no issue taking on many opponents on his own, and most of the thugs had confused expressions as they fought. Let's get this party started, Deku said, clapping his hands together. Kurogyri, your time to shine. I'm in charge here. Kurogyri, disperse them, Shigaraki snapped. Deku put his hands up as if he was being accused of something and turned away. He watched as the man took on everyone until he put the dots together. Hey Tamura, what do you want? I figured something out. I don't care. Will you get your head out of your butt and listen to me for once in your miserable life? The man glared daggers at him before popping his jaw. What? That's a hero dash. No sheet. Shut up. I think he can erase quirks. The man looked down at him. And what gave you that idea? Watch. Each person he fights could easily use their quirk to fight him off, but none of them are. And his hair goes up at random points. Wait a minute. Where is All Might? Now that Tamura brought it up, where is he? We were told he was going to be here today, so what the hell? Well, we are too far in, so we might as well finish these wannabe heroes off, Deku said through grit teeth. He was said and felt lied to. It set a fire in his tea that was almost unbearable. Almost. Are you going to stand around or make yourself useful? Tamura said to the boy next to him. That's rich coming from you, Kurogyri, Deku said, turning around. The purple mist appeared next to him. How may I assist you? Can you take me to one of disasters? Of course. Thanks. A gate opened and Deku walked through with ease. He came out the other side and looked around, seeing he was in a smaller building that looked broken and run down. He looked around, whistling his little tune, looking around at the thugs who were piled in the room. Seriously? They couldn't take on some high school kids? Pathetic, he said, walking past them. He heard a loud explosion above him, making him move out of the way as the roof caved in. Did you see that, Bakugo? A boy looked around through the dust before spotting Deku. Bakugo? Deku pulled his wire and covered his hand in BLD. Just as he went to fling it onto the kid, another person grabbed him and they barreled across the ground. Stupid shitty hair. Are you trying to get killed? I thought it was you. You saw a rabbit-looking extra and thought it was me? You both bicker like a couple of middle school girls fighting over a boy. It's adorable. The two looked at Deku with glares. Once Deku made eye contact with the blonde boy, his ran cold for the first time in years, and his head felt like something was piecing through his skull. Stupid D. Deku grabbed his head, taking a few steps back as his mind screamed at him. Useless Deku, always crying. What's the matter, Wabbit? You seem stressed. The boy released explosions in his palms, which only made Deku's head hurt more. What a crybaby. You'll never be a hero. Shut up. He yelled, mostly to his own mind. I'm gonna blast you all the way to hell. The boy ran towards him only to have Deku flick his hand, allowing BLD to fly through the air. The hothead moved back, getting a bit of the BLD on his CT before clenching his teeth. Oh, so this how you kill those heroes? By getting BLD all over them, then torching them to death. Die, you extra. I said shut up. The boy closed his fist and the small amount of BLD on Katsuki went up in flames and packed a punch to it. He instantly tumbled back and started trying to out of the flame with no luck. Bakugo! The red head ran towards Deku, but he just pivoted to the side, making the boy run into a wall. I'm gonna be the #1 hero like All Might. Deku groaned in pain and annoyance as it didn't get any better. Tears began to well into his eyes, making him clench his jaw. The red head got up quick and did end up landing a good hit on Deku's ribs, making his gasp for air. I'm better than everyone, including you, Deku. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Katsuki looked up at the boy who seemed to be fighting his own battle, and with that chance he lunged at him and grabbing him by the waist and bringing him to the ground. Deku wrapped his legs around his neck and twisted them so Katsuki was now on the ground. He stood up, dodging another hit from the red head before grabbing his grenades. With the red head on the ground and one with a severe burn on his wrist, Deku plopped the bombs in the ground and tried to get out of the building. Kuro dash, before Deku could think his body was collapsed on the ground and his vision getting fuzzy from the pain. Kirishima, get up. Now's our chance. He's down. The two got up and ran towards the boy, but before they got to him, a purple mist appeared. Deku put out his hand and both boys widened their eyes. Boom was the last thing Deku said before closing his fist, making the grenade explode as he was warped out. Kirishima activated his quirk and became a shield for Bakugo as the floor of the building started to crumble. The impact hurt like a beach, but there wasn't anything they could do. Bakugo dragged them both out before the building collapsed onto them and they breathed. Shit, we just missed him. Bakugo, I'm not feeling too good. Katsuki's eyes widened, seeing the large wound on his friend's back. It was deep, more of a surface wound, but it covered his entire back and BLD soaked it. Bakugo had to drag him to a water source to get the rest of the flames out so Kirishima stopped burning. Shit. I'll be alright, man, it's just a scratch. Go get that guy before he hurts anyone else. Bakugo hesitated before turning around. Hey, where did you hear that song you were whistling earlier? I wasn't whistling. That would have been stupid and drawn too much attention. I'm not an idiot. Katsuki looked up at him with a worried expression. What is it? Nothing. I'll send help over as soon as I can. Right? Kirishima couldn't shake the worried expression on Katsuki's face, but he had more important things to deal with at the moment. Deku was now back at Tamura's side, holding his head, and collapsed to the ground. Tamura looked down at him with disapproval and snickered. What's your issue? I need to go home. You can call in sick, we are already in too deep. All Might should come soon. One of the hero kids escaped. Which could also mean more heroes are coming. We need to get out now before it's too late, Deku breathed, happy the mask he wore was covering his face so Shigaraki couldn't see him crying in pain. I'll decide it when we go back, so get your sheet together and be ready. Deku stood up, wobbly, trying to think straight, but all he could think about was that stupid blonde. Every time his face appeared in his mind, more pain spread through his entire head. This was not how it was supposed to go. After what felt like hours, his mind cleared up, and he saw the hero from earlier behind, held down by the Nomu. Torch him. Deku shook his head, hoping it would help his brain fog, and pulled the wire again, making the cut deeper as he walked over to the Nomu and the hero. The BLD dripped from his fingertips as he walked. The hero had BLD all over his face and had his arms snapped like a toothpick. He looked up at the boy with a scowl and spat BLD at him. Just as he was about to cover the hero, he was thrown across the battlefield and hitting the wall of a cold dome. I wasn't done with you, extra, the voice froze earlier said in a taunting tone. Did you think I was gonna let you kill my teacher? He could see the fresh burns on his arm and how he wasn't dead confused him. You'll never be a hero. You're in my way. Deku said. The fire in his eyes felt like it was burning through his ribcage. At any moment he would be surprised if he combusted into flames himself. It would be an ironic way to die, but he would have it coming. Kill him, coward. I am not letting you escape this time. The blonde used his explosions to blast himself towards Deku. Now that Deku thought about it, the voice sounded a lot like this boy charging at him. In the nick of time he rolled over, dodging a fatal blow that would have killed him for sure. You're a hero, you shouldn't be trying to kill people. Deku yelled as more pain throbbed through his head. Worst day ever. Deku has taken beating from heroes since forever, it felt like. But this kid was FANG with his head. It made this battle feel impossible. I'm not a hero yet, so it's fair game. You can be my sidekick, Deku. Deku froze again, looking at the boy. No matter how strong he tried, he could dodge the next blow to his stomach, making him taste BLD in his mouth. Is he really gonna die out here? On his first league mission? No, his work isn't done. He has a world to recreate with his father. The blonde grabbed his throat and pinned him to a wall with eyes that could kill. I'm gonna make you wish I killed you. You're not the first excuse of a hero to say that to me. The blonde went to blow up Deku's face, but he moved his head just in time. The top of his mask was blown to bits, exposing his green hair. It was Katsuki's turn to freeze. He had to me seeing things wrong. Messy green hair. With the split moment of shock, Katsuki was in. Deku kicked him off and flung more BLD at him. Before the boy could process what was on him, his skin was sizzling in the flame. The smell of burning flesh wasn't the most lovely smell, but it was something Deku had gotten used to. He yelled and backed off and rushed to the water source and putting out the flames. As Deku went to rush back to Shigaraki, a loud explosion was heard from the main doors, getting everyone's attention. Fear not, student. For I am here. All Might. The burning in his sissy had made its way through his entire body, making his veins burn. Finally, he made his way back to Shigaraki, who looked down at him and scoffed. You look like sheet. Yeah, that's what happens when you're not standing around expecting everyone to protect you. I have a roll dash. So do I. But I'm not letting everyone fight my battles. It's pathetic seeing you on this field. Deku snapped. I'm not the one who got my butt wiped by a high schooler. I would be a high schooler by now if father didn't dash. What is he saying? Never once has his father let him down. He's been in his life the whole time as far as he could. Remember. Correct your tone with me, Deku. I can kill you and say you died here if I want it. Same goes for you, crusty fucker. I swear to God, dash. Didn't you both make a promise to the or not to argue? Kurogiri said from behind them. They both huffed and watched the battle between the Nomu and All Might. Deku could positively say that All Might had gotten weaker. His punches seemed slower than before, and there seems to be a steam coming from his mouth. Deku, go make yourself useful. I've done my part. I think it's your turn, he said, sitting on the ground, trying desperately to ignore the throbbing in his head. With one final punch, the Nomu was gone. All Might had one. Deku could hear Shigaraki scratching his skin aggressively. He went to charge forward, but Deku grabbed him and stopped him from doing so. If you do that, you're sure to get caught or end up dead. Use that brain of yours, Leader. Tamura groaned and swiped Deku's hand off of him. Fine, but I want to leave a parting gift. Shigaraki lunged at one of the students who sat in the water. Her hair was green and she had big eyes. As Shigaraki was ready to kill her, a bullet went through his hand. Dash. Before he could finish his sentence, Deku watched as he was shot in the shoulder and leg as well. Deku hid behind a rock, waiting for the hero to run out of bullets before making his way to the warp. See you next time, he hollered before staring through the gate. When they walked into the bar, Deku could stop laughing. He had to hold his stomach. I can't believe you got shot 3 times, he cackled. Shut up before I kill you. Katsuki was helped out of the water and heroes started tending to his burns. At this point, Katsuki would normally be yelling and saying he was fine, but he was stuck in shock at what he saw. There's no way Deku would be a villain. He wanted so badly to be a hero. And last time he checked, Deku was quirkless. You good kid? I'm fine, he said, watching his friend Kirishima get carried out on his stomach. When they got to the hospital, police had sat in his room asking him questions about what happened. Of course, Katsuki said everything he could think of, but when the subject of the rabbit came up, he didn't know what to say. Look, I know it was probably scary coming in contact with the rabbit dash. That's not it. What is it then? He paused and looked down before replying. I think it was Izuku Midoriya. Deku watched the news that was all about the USJ attack. Even though it went horribly wrong in every way, it wasn't like his father was here to lecture him about it. Until he called. Deku had to bite his tongue, so he didn't laugh when Shigaraki had to tell him he was shot 3 times. Shigaraki gave him a cold glare for it. Deku, on the other hand, has had a headache since the battle. His father didn't seem too upset about the situation. He didn't seem to be upset at all, which felt weird. His father had never hurt him in any way, but it still felt odd. His father told him to go down to the doctor with Shigaraki. So Deku had to hold the man up as they made their way down. The walk was quiet for the most part besides the scratching on Tamura's neck which bothered Deku but didn't care about it at the moment. He just wanted this sharp pain gone. Tamura, Deku, how was the mission? The doctor asked. How does it look like it went? Tamura snapped. Oh dear, how did this happen? Snipe, Deku answered with a chuckle. And you, how are you doing? I mean, I got a couple bruises and probably a fed up rib or two, but I should be fine. Let me see. Deku pulled up his shirt and the doctor just nodded. Yeah, it does seem like so. Sadly, because it is your ribs, we can't really do anything about it. Just get some rest. Was that all? Actually, Dash. No, I don't want to forget. Deku put his hand on his head, hearing a different voice. It seemed young and oddly familiar. But he doesn't recall ever hearing it before. Everything all right? Yeah, it just hit my head. I'm gonna get some rest. Also, my mask got messed up. Did anyone see you? I mean, a kid saw my hair, that was it. Alright, I'll fix it up. Tamura, sit on the table. Deku closed the door as he left and made his way to his room. He got his door back the day after him and Tamura's argument. Kurojiiri said the next time that happens he will tell our father. Deku sat on his bed combing his fingers through his hair and massaging his temples, hoping it would ease the pain as his mind felt more out of order than usual. He didn't think too strong on it, believing he was concussed. But that voice in his head from earlier put an unsettling feeling in his stomach. Why didn't he tell the doctor about it? Are you sure it was him? Yes, it had to be him. Katsuki yelled at the officer. He had the same hair. But that was all you saw? If I saw more I would have said so. The officer closed his notebook and looked at his teacher, who was bandages all over his body and both his arms in casts. We will have to keep this under wraps for the time being until we can get more information. What did you know about Izuku? Growing up he only ever wanted to be a hero. He would never become a villain. But if that was Izuku, then the boy you knew is probably gone. No, I'm telling you. He had to have been forced or something. He was bullied a lot, right? Katsuki looked down. Yeah. What did they do? The boy gulped. Call him names. He was beaten a lot. Almost every day he was covered in bruises and burns. Did anyone help him? No. Bakugo, some villains become villains from things like that. If it was Dash. Are you deaf or something? It was him. And I'm telling you, he wouldn't have done this unless he had to. I know Deku like the back of my hand. So stop talking to me like I'm a child. We will look more into it. You do have to understand though, his case went cold over 2 years ago. We'll keep in touch. With that the officer left. Aizawa sat in the bed next to Katsuki. They were in the hero's special unit of the hospital. As far as Katsuki was aware though, his teacher was asleep. I thought you said you were friends? A raspy voice said. Katsuki didn't bother looking at his teacher. We grew apart. How come? Katsuki didn't reply and clenched his fists. I see. You know, if he is a villain, then we have to stop him, right? He's not. Deku isn't like that. We've all got skeletons in our closets. Bakugo. Deku had learned to ignore his headache for the last week or so. His ribs were healing but not as fast as he hopped. He wanted to get back out there and do a job. He hated being cooped up in his room. He felt trapped. Ever since the USJ, the new voice in his head doesn't really shut up. It normally sounds like muttering coming from behind him. He was working on his gear, trying to find a way to make sure it didn't jam anymore, but was having no luck. He took a deep breath and it almost sounded like the voice was getting closer to his ear. What the mutter was saying was beyond Deku. He looked at his blueprints trying to figure it out but was having no luck. His head still throbbed and it was affecting his sleep. It wasn't like he was sleeping well either way. He put his head on the desk trying to organize his thought but was just getting frustrated that he couldn't put it together. His whole life felt like it shifted. He didn't know why or how, but he could feel the difference. Alt hosa stood in shade amazing kuriksai wishi could study them and ask them questions about it. That thatanekid si metohavia hardening kurik. That should probably ritethes and minotabukaken. Shut the hell up. Deku snapped, throwing a knife burying deep into the wall. One question was circling around his head the most. Who the hell is Kachan? Thinking about him made his head ache more, and every time that stupid voice said his name it sent a sharp pain through his temple. He couldn't stay inside anymore. He grabbed a mask and a black hoodie, pulling it over his head and tucking his hair inside. He wore gloves and his bracelet just in case and checked the mirror making sure he was mostly hidden. As he walked out to the bar, Kurogyari gave him a questioning look as he dried a glass. "Where are you going?" "I just need some air." "You should find some colored contacts while you're out. The more you have hidden about you, the less likely people are to recognize you. Everyone already thinks I'm dead. Safety first. You see, to get contacts I need money, and last I checked, I didn't have any." The second he finished his sentence, Kurogyari put a $100 bill onto the counter. "Get yourself something, you deserve it." Deku smiled and thanked him before leaving the bar. The sun was bright out today, but the wind had a bit of a chill. Deku didn't really know where he could get contacts, so just kept walking until he found a little shop that sold merch and cosplay items. He walked in, tapping on his phone and weaving through the racks of merch and cosplays of different heroes. When he stopped and looked up, he was standing in front of a wall covered in All Might merch. He kinda just stood there looking at every little bit of merch until the bell of the door rung, taking us attention. He looked away at the door and saw a boy in a uniform. His hair was... Pain spread through his head again and he groaned in annoyance. Maybe he should bring this up to the doctor. Normally his concussions would be manageable by now. He did take a few pretty strong hits, but still. As the boy walked further into the store, Deku moved around, completely avoiding him. His eyes couldn't leave the blonde boy, who didn't seem to notice him yet, which was good on his part. As he was about to leave the store, he saw contact lenses. He tapped his fingers, thinking before realizing, there aren't many places that he knows of that sell contacts. He looked at the options and decided on a pair of yellow ones and took them. As he passed over the cash, the hair on the back of his neck stood up, realizing the boy was now waiting in line behind him. "Kachan!" the voice screamed. Deku clenched his teeth. I took his item and change and quickly left the store and going to a convenience store. He grabbed some extra strength Tylenol and water before leaving the store. He cracked open the pill bottle and took one of them, now hoping it would help. From the corner of his eye, he saw the blonde leave the store with a large bag and walking away. Deku would be lying if he said he wasn't curious about the boy and his stupid brain's attachments to him, but right now all that little voice is saying is Kachan. He huffed, annoyed, and decided to follow him. The walk was a bit long, but Deku kept a pretty large gap between them, doing everything he could to ensure he wasn't noticeable. As they approached a cemetery, Deku started feeling guilty for following him. The kid lost a loved one and is visiting them, and all Deku is doing is stalking him. He debated touring around and going home, but his curiosity was eating him alive. Kachan, 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 Kachan. I should get home. The voice was high-pitched and more annoying than before. None of the other voices bothered him as much as this one. It was getting under his skin. For F's sakes, fine. Deku went forward, not really sure where the blonde went, so he just kept moving until he found him standing over a gravestone. He was pulling something out of the bag from the store. Deku couldn't really tell what it was, so he moved forward and hid behind a large tree so he could get a better look. It wasn't anything Deku found appealing, but it was made of fabric. Deku squinted his eyes and realized it was an All Might onesie. It wasn't a kid's size either. Closer to the blonde's size. He placed it gently on the gravestone and stood over it, not saying anything for a while. Deku saw him wipe his face and nod slowly. Hey, Dekuji froze. What the F dash? God, this is so stupid, he said more to himself. Look, I'm gonna get to the point. It's been 3 years officially today. If you're alive, I need you to let me know. I'm sorry for how I treated you growing up. I was the loser. Hurting you stroked my ego, and now I'm seeing that I really effed up. His voice seemed shaky as he wiped his face again. I know what I saw at the USJ. I'm not an idiot. I didn't want you to disappear. I never wanted F dash. Deku's head throbbed, but he's pretty sure the painkillers were helping, allowing him to stand here longer. Enjoy the All Might onesie. I knew how much you wanted this one. With that, the boy walked off. Deku waited until he knew the boy was gone before going up to the grave that he stood by. He checked his surroundings before looked at the grave and moving the onesie so he could see the name. Izuku Midoriya. Until we meet again. July 15th, 20XX, April 12th, 20XX. Deku collapsed to the ground, feeling like his head was about to split. Tears filled his eyes as he choked back sobs, not wanted to draw attention as. Take a deep breath, baby, you're gonna be okay. A soft voice told him, but his mind felt like it was completely out of order. Nothing in his mind felt real. His thoughts too fast for him to keep up with. Forward march and here we go. Members of the agency Bakugo. Shut up. You really can't do anything right, can you? Shut up please, he sobbed to himself. You'll never catch up to me. Shut up all of you. My darling little son. Deku's mind cleared a bit. The soft feminine voice had a peaceful tone to it as it sung. Open your eyes. Deku gripped onto the grass as he tried to get a hold of his breathing. Your tears are justified, the world is cruel, I know it too. His mind slowly calmed down and the head-splitting pain had eased. But you are certainly no one's tool. He got up, taking a couple final breaths before walking back. He checked the cash he had left and saw it around $55. He walked into the store looking around as he got to the till. Do you sell burner phones? $40. Deku snapped the money into the counter and the cashier handed him a phone. He thanked him and walked out, heading back to the bar. When he returned, Kurogyari welcomed him and Deku waved. With a tired expression. Did you find the contacts? Yeah, I got yellow ones. Good. When Deku got back to his room, he huffed and took off of his layers before plopping on his bed. He felt exhausted and didn't feel much better. He went to go to Google on his phone but paused. Anything he Googled his father would be able to see. He can be such a helicopter parent sometimes. He pulled out the burner phone and looked at it before turning it on. He pulled up Google and thought for a moment before typing Bakugo family. He heard the redhead call him that. The search pulled Facebook pages and other social media accounts. His face popped up at the top with a new article about the USJ. He clicked on one and found it was the blonde's account. Katsuki Bakugo. His brain stung but scrolled through his account. He didn't post at all. His account was completely empty. Lovely. He exited his account and looked some more. Finding another account that wasn't his but a woman's that looked just like him. Mitsuki Bakugo. He looked at her Facebook that seemed to have posted a lot more. Most of it was group outing and trips they had taken. There hasn't been many posts the past 3 years, pretty much only holiday photos. He scrolled further down but stopped on one picture that had Katsuki as a child next to a green-haired boy. With freckles. Izuku stared at the photo for a while and touched his cheek until he felt the piercing pain again and threw the phone. He grabbed his blanket and curled into a ball under it and tried to take a nap, but he couldn't fall asleep. His mind was still running laps. The voices had calmed down a lot and the mutter was once again at the back of his mind. Kachan. If his name was Katsuki, why did the voice call him Kachan? His phone started to ring and he picked it up without looking at the screen. Hello. Deku, my son. Father. Deku sat up quickly, making his vision spotty for a moment. I have an assignment for you, too actually. Of course, what do you need? I need you to take care of a hero who is getting a little too close for comfort. Which one? Kamui Woods. He's been a thorn in my side. I would like you to dispose of him, tonight if possible. Of course, father, but my wounds from the USJ still haven't healed fully. We need to make sure they know we won't back down. If you show that you can get hurt, they will keep striking us. Not to mention you do have a fire quirk. He should be easy to handle. Right? Deku felt an unease going in that mission. Sure, he had a fire quirk, but if he wasn't physically up to it, then it could backfire on him. Second, the UA Sports Festival is coming up. I need you to watch it and fill a book on their quirk. When finished, give it to Kurogyari and he will deliver it to me. I'm sure you can manage that. You're one of my strongest after all. Of course, father. Without saying bye, his father hung up on him. He sighed and dragged his hands down his face with a groan. He picked up his phone and figuring out where the hero would be at this time, according to various fan pages, had told me he would start his night patrol in an hour. Deku stood up and popped another painkiller, even thought it hasn't been the recommended time yet, then grabbed his costume and changed. You know what would make a cool gadget? Something that could bring your opponent closer. Deku paused and thought for a moment. That is actually a good idea. He'll have to work on it when he gets back. He put his mask back on, happy if was repaired, and headed out. He decided this time he would bring a backpack and put normal clothes in it just in case things got out of hand, and his new burner phone before he left the rundown bar. Deku hopped from roof to roof until he was close enough to plop his backpack down. The sun had fully set by now, and this was the last patrol Kamui Woods had for the night. It took a bit longer to get there than he'd hoped, but with his ribs still messed, moving was a bit strong still. He dropped down into an alleyway and fiddled with his knife as he waited for the hero. "You're gonna kill a hero?" the smaller voice asked. "It's kinda my job. Welcome to my hell. We don't kill heroes, we wanna be one. Quit your whining, I don't have the time to deal with it right now." The wall Deku was leaning against crumbled behind him, making him roll across the ground and hiss at the pain in his ribs. "Rabbit, I figured you'd come after me next. Did your boss send you?" "I work for myself, sorry. You were at the USJ attack though." "No one said I wanted to be there." "Rabbit, you are under arrest for the murders of numerous dash." "Let's skip the speech, I've heard it enough." Deku pulled his wire and got low to the ground. Kamui must have figured his quirk and took a few steps back. "You alright there, hero?" Deku taunted. "I just don't have a death wish. Either way, your BLD is gonna be on the ground." Deku dashed towards him, BLD dripping down his hand as he charged forward. As Kamui tried to use branches to push him back, Deku just flung BLD on him and moved forward. Deku moved back finally and put his hand out. Before he could close his fist, someone kicked him in his already broken ribs. Deku gasped and hit a wall, strong, his head connecting with the cement. His mind went fuzzy for a moment as two heroes started walking towards him. "Alright, Rabbit, let's see who the hell you are." Before they grabbed his mask, Deku closed his fist and Kamui went up in flames. The hero next to him obviously panicked and moved back. Deku didn't know which hero he was since his vision was so effed, but he could hear the sound of running water and the light of flames dying out. Of course, this coward brought a water hero with him. No kidding. Deku stood up, wobbling slightly, but moved in time to dodge a direct punch to his face. He moved down, tripping the water hero and stomping on his sissy multiple times, ignoring his gasping for air. "You're gonna kill him." Deku froze for a split second, which was enough for a branch to wrap around him. Deku tried to wiggle his way out but had no luck. The wood hero was bloody and his branches looked more like charcoal in some areas. "You're fast, Rabbit." The squeezing on his body got tighter, making him yell in pain. "You're under arrest, dash. F die." The two of them looked up, seeing someone drop down and break the branch holding Deku. The person grabbed Deku and they flew onto a roof as he was carried. He ran for a while until Deku pushed the guy forward, making him let go of Deku. They both fell and Deku got into a fighting stance. His body hurt like a beach, and right now he didn't know who the hell this was, but he's making the hairs on his neck stand up. "Who the hell are you?" Deku was said at the situation. First the mission went to Sheet, then a random guy took him. "Why?" The guy took of the black mask me wore over his face and his hair poofed. "Bakugo? Kachan. Oh, for F's sakes, kid. Don't get involved in things that aren't you business," Deku yelled. "I saved your worthless butt. I didn't need your saving." Deku turned around, going to leave, but Bakugo grabbed his shoulder. Deku twisted him around and slammed him in the ground. "F off before you get yourself." Kachan, Kachan. You think you can scare me? When did you decide to become a raging CNT? You should be thanking me." Bakugo span around and tripped Deku. The two moved back, putting space between them. "I don't even know who the hell you are." Bakugo gave him a taken-back expression. "Are you FING with me right now? Because that's not funny. If it was a joke, I think I would be laughing. Now get lost, I have a job to finish." Bakugo this time was able to grab Deku. The second he jumped, Bakugo grabbed his shirt and pulled him down so he landed on his back. He was quick to sit on Deku's stomach, sending unbearable pain through him, causing him to yelp. "Kachan, Kachan, Kachan." Bakugo had his hand on Deku's head and pinning both hands above his head so he couldn't use his quirk. "Get off me, please, it hurts." Bakugo's face scrunched in rage. "It hurts? Do I look like I care? If I let you go, you're just gonna kill those heroes. Only Kamui. F-. That's besides the point." Deku lets out pained laugh. "Do you know how effed you are? My BLD is already all over you. I can kill you at any moment. So can I. But you won't." Bakugo's grip tightened. "I'm taking this off. Kachan, Kachan, Kachan." "Shut up. Who don't think you're talking to?" "Kill him." "No." Deku tried to push him off and stop his hands, but an explosion next to his ear made him let his guard down. Bakugo grabbed the mask as Deku tried to hold his wrist down. "And oh no, you can't, don't dash." Deku shut his eyes as the fabric was ripped off. His face. Oh my god, I'm dead. Father's actually gonna kill me this time. This time? I knew it. Bakugo's face ran cold, giving Deku a chance to push him off. His ribs hurt too much to run, so he just sat up and pushed himself against the wall. But why are you killing heroes? Why are you doing all of this? Deku was too focused on trying to catch his breath. Answer me. I don't even know you. Bakugo took a step back. What does that mean? I don't dash. Deku's head started to feel like his skull was being spit again. No one can know who you are. You have to kill them if they do. Words my father told him many times. I don't know you, he said, holding his head between his knees. You think I am an idiot? Give me a moment, I need to think. Are you kidding me? What's there to think about? You disappear for 3 years and now you're killing Dash. Deku jumped forward, covering Bakugo's mouth. Let me think. Kachan. Kill him. Get out of there. You will die. Shut up. Bakugo looked at him confused before shoving Deku off of him. There was no resistance and he just fell to the ground. Kachan, Kachan, Kachan. Kill that beastie. Shut up, all of you. I'm not talking. Shush. Just be quiet, I can't dash. Deku's breathing was becoming erratic, he couldn't think straight, and everything felt like it was cashing down on him. He couldn't decide what to do. Deku dash. Stop. Just stop. Deku could feel the hot tears pouring from his face, but he couldn't control anything. His head hurt, his thoughts were racing, he couldn't breath. What the hell does he do? His thoughts were cut with a knife as he heard a familiar tune being whistled. Bakugo stood a few feet away from him, giving him space, softly whistling a tune he often heard Inko hum when she's doing things. He remembered her telling him about how that was the only thing that calmed him down growing up. She thought it was the cutest thing she's ever seen. Her son was her everything. So when he disappeared, her entire world came crumbling to the ground. Deku's breathing slowly was getting more under control, and his thoughts began to clear. His head still hurt, but it definitely wasn't as intense anymore. His head fell forward as he touched the roof, feeling for it with his eyes closed, grounding himself. Now talk. Deku took a deep breath before looking at him. Okay, fine. Deku stood up wobbly, his body had relaxed so the adrenaline was gone. And everything hurt. Deku sniffed and put his hand in his pocket, fiddling with a small disc. Alright Bakugo, you win. Deku walked up to him slowly. He dropped the disc on the ground and smiled at the boy. Where the hell have you dash? Bakugo's entire body stiffened as electricity went through his entire body. Oh silly Bakugo, you forgot you were playing with a villain. See ya. Bakugo collapsed to the ground, and before he was able to look back up, Deku was gone. He was swaying as he walked, head feeling heavy as he moved down the sidewalk. When he got to the bar, Kurogiri quickly came to his side and helped him take a seat. What in unfamiliar sight? You never come back this injured before. Well, I wasn't fully healed and the stupid wood hero had a water hero with him. So my flames were powerless and then dash. And then the water hero kicked me in my already broken ribs. You should go to the doctor, he will be able to help more than I can. Right as Deku stood up, his body fell limp and he fell forward. As he was about to hit the ground, a purple warp formed and he landed in the doctor's chair. Oh well, hey there Deku. You don't look too good. Thanks. Were you able to complete the mission? No, the stupid wood hero was with a water hero. They found me before I found them. That's not like you, the doctor said, inspecting his body. Don't tell him. Yeah, well, I wasn't fully healed and was distracted by my disc shooter. It hasn't been working. Your father won't be too thrilled about this. I know. Alright, well, it doesn't seem like you have any bad injuries besides your ribs. But this time you're gonna have to stay off duty for the next 6 weeks? 6 weeks? Yes, you really messed up your ribs this time. I'm more surprised you didn't mess up your lung or any organs. But if you keep fighting you surely will. But I'll give you credit, you can really take a beating. So I've been told. I'm just gonna have to sedate you and deal with your larger cuts. No, don't fall asleep, don't do it. I'm not a PP, I can't take a few stitches. If you insist. Deku just slipped through his hands and he didn't know if he could get him back. He should tell the police, but he also wanted Deku to trust him. He's too conflicted to make a decision. He marched his way back to his place and didn't bother saying hello to anyone. He went to his room, pacing back and forth, trying to come up with a plan. Out of all people, Inko deserves to know her kid is alive. But she doesn't deserve to see what he had turned into over the years. It freaked him out. He could only imagine how she would react. No matter how strong he tried, he couldn't get his thoughts straight. He needed to talk to someone about it, but there was no one he could trust with this information. "Katsuki, are you all right?" Inko said from the other side of the door. He bit his fist and closed his eyes. He wants to tell her, he could tell her. "Yeah, I'm just tired." "All right, I'll call you when dinner is ready." "Sounds good, Auntie." With his mind as jumbled as it was, he could only think of one thing to do. He grabbed his phone and tapped his foot, frustrated, before dialing a number. "Hey Baku bro. What's up?" "Kirishima, I have a hypothetical question. It's a shitting way to go about it, but Kirishima also wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Hit me. If you lost contact with a friend for years and suddenly they came back but they were completely different and did really bad things, what would you do?" "That's an odd question. Just answer the DMN question." "I mean, it depends on the kind of bad things he did. Wanted for murder." "Sheet, I don't know, man. I guess if he's willing to change and get better, I say reach out to him. If he's not, don't burden yourself with other people's issues. You'd be better off calling the cops and letting them deal with it. Or pry at him until he opens up and accepts help." "What if I'm at risk of dying if I do that? What the hell is going on?" "What part of hypothetical did you not understand?" Bakugo hung up before he could ask any more questions, and threw his phone on his desk. Bakugo had made up his mind. Kirishima is too stupid to hold on to that conversation for a long time. "Why are you being so mean? You're making him cry, Kachan. If you keep hurting him, I'll stop you myself." The small boy had tears in his eyes as his boy trembled in fear. It not like he can do anything but take a beating for the kid behind him. A blond boy stood in front of him along with two other friends of his. One had large red wings and the other was able to stretch his fingers. He knew that it was screwed the second he got himself involved in something that he wasn't a part of. "You want Apprentice to be a hero?" An explosion popped in the blonde's palm. "You don't stand a chance without a quirk." Deku. The three laughed before they lunged at him, making the boy gasp. Deku sat up quickly in his bed, covered in cold sweats. His breathing was erratic, and as he looked around the room frantically, "You're safe." Deku laid back down and sighed. He needs a shower. He checked the time, seeing it was 8 a.m. and rolled out of bed. The sports festival was supposed to start at 9, so he grabbed a towel and went into his shower and started the hot water. He sat in the tub of the shower, lost in thought about his dream. The blonde looked a lot like the kid in those posts, and Deku felt like him but smaller. The thing that caught him off guard was the fact that in the photos those two kids seemed to be best friends, but in his dream, he was terrified of the boy. It didn't make sense. Maybe they aren't even connected. Maybe it was just a dream. Then again, he's been getting them a lot these past few days. The first one was of the blonde boy and him opening collectible cards, and they both got All Might, which in the moment seemed to make us both extremely happy. The second time was him sitting at a desk crying as he watched All Might save hundreds of people. He turned around to a woman with green hair and no face, asking if he could be a hero without a quirk. The woman said nothing. Considering she didn't have a mouth, it made sense, and ran to hug the little boy. The thing is, he always seemed to wake up in a panic. He hated it, but there was nothing he could do. As much as he wanted to go talk to the doctor, every time the thought crossed his mind someone was screaming no at the top of their lungs, it felt like. Deku sat on a bar, stood with a fresh notebook with the number 13 waiting for the sports festival to start. Kurojiri was kind and left him a cup of chocolate milk and a grilled cheese, letting him know if he needed anything to just ask him. Kurojiri had always been here as far as Deku could remember. When father was gone, he was the one that literally does everything to make sure Tamura and him don't go for each other's throats. Once the program started, the hero from the USJ was covered head to toe with bandages. Deku felt slightly bad for him, but not enough for him to care. He was hardly introduced, making Deku skeptical. But with research he found out his name was Eraserhead, an underground hero. No wonder we could figure out who he was. When the festival started, it was strong to keep track of everyone's quirks, so he had a CRP tone of post-it notes all over the counter and would add to them as he watched. At the end of the race of the first challenge, it was both Bakugo and Endeavor's kid that tied. Things calmed down when they got to the second game. It was easier to keep track, but he still couldn't add a lot of detail to his notes. Why does there have to be so many students? But when the finally challenge happened, which was 1 versus 1, Deku was able to catch up and add more details to the notes. The issue was that every time Bakugo was in the screen his head hurt. The pain got more bearable, but it still hurt like a beach. It made it strong to focus but kept pushing through. In the long run, Bakugo had won, but he didn't seem happy about his win. They chained up the kid and forced him on the pedestal. Deku couldn't help but pity the boy, but he also didn't seem like the guy who liked being pitted. He was a hothead for sure and made his intentions to win clear at the beginning. Yet he wasn't happy with the way he won. The battle between Bakugo and Todoroki was intense. The floor was getting shredded and they were constantly at each other's throats. In the end, 2 teachers had to interfere and Todoroki passed out. So he could see why Bakugo was frustrated. The battle also didn't last very long, which in all honesty would piss Deku off winning that way. Deku leaned back into his chair and cracked his neck before he did some extra work on the notebook. It took but another 3 hours on top of the 4 hours of the festival. The pages weren't full, so he debated giving it to Kurogyari. When he took notes, he liked to make sure every page was used. Izuku scratched his head thinking when Kurogyari passed him another chocolate milk. Thanks. How is it going? I've mostly finished with the student, but there are still empty pages. I don't want to leave them empty, but I don't know what to fill them with because I documented everything I could. Your father only wanted the students. I'm sure he will be happy with what you have. Deku huffed and passed him the notebook before stretching and instantly stopping when his ribs hurt. He's only 2 weeks into his 6 weeks of healing and it was already eating him alive. He didn't want to be cooped up like this. He hated it even. Are you feeling all right? Deku looked up at the purple mist. Yeah, my sleep had been out of whack since it's strong to get comfortable with my ribs broken. I see how that could be troublesome. You should try and get some more rest. Can I go for a walk? I won't do anything crazy, I just need to get out. Only a walk? Yes. Please, Kurogyari. Alright, if you run into trouble let me know. Deku nodded and gathered his things. He pocketed the burner phone and left the bar waving at the mist. Once he was out and walking, the fresh air already made him feel less like dog shit. He didn't have an idea as to where we was going at the moments, he just needed to walk. He looked at the little shops around selling their goods and people talking and seeming to enjoy their life. It almost felt wrong thinking about how the world was going to change. It was happening soon, but he wasn't too sure as to when. He ended up at the graveyard again, standing at the entrance, not really sure what to do. He shrugged and headed to the grave from last time, and the All Might onesie was gone. He was just hoping it wasn't stolen. He looked down at the grave, his head stinging more, but he wasn't bothered by it. He's put up with these constant pains for at least a month now, and he can't tell if it got better or if he was just used to it. He was also taking painkillers a lot, so that probably helped as well. He didn't know what exactly he was trying to accomplish when he stared at the grave. Until we meet again. Whatever the hell that means, he stood there for a while longer before he pulled out his burner phone and typed in the name on the tombstone. Once he hit search, hundreds of links popped up. Boy missing after house fire. Izuku Midoriya officially claimed dead. Izuku Midoriya house fire. And so on. He scrolled through them and tapped on a random one, and his eyes widened seeing the little green-haired boy's picture. At age 12, Izuku went missing after a house fire. His mother Inko Midoriya suffered from intense burn and stab wounds throughout her body. The further he read, the more his head started to ache as he remembered stabbing his mom over and over. In his defense, she was gonna kill him first, being quirkless. He put the phone down and sat down looking at the tombstone. There's no way that's me, right? For the first time his mind had nothing to say. He huffed and stood up, walking out of the cemetery. As he walked, he continued to look at news articles and was getting freaked out about how much the kid looked like him. He decided it would be a good time to Google the mother Inko, but before he could even click search, his head felt 10 times heavier and it hurt like a beach. Guess he's not Googling that. He continued walking mindlessly and looking around the city. An area he hadn't really remembered ever being in made his head hurt. As much as he tried to take a step forward, his head hurt too much. He checked his watch, seeing that it has already been 2 hours. He turned around, walking away, but stopping to look back at it again. That's probably the smartest thing my brain has said so far. He turned his heels and headed back to the bar. The roads were familiar, so he knew where he was going already and tried to keep his mind off that one neighborhood. When he got back, he was greeted by Kurogiri and went back to his room. He plopped on his bed lost in thought as he pulled his burner phone back out. He typed in Bakugo's name again, clicked on his Instagram seeing he had no post still. Deku huffed and clicked on his followers, which he had many of. He saw a profile picture with a red-haired boy with shark teeth. He remembered him from the USJ. He clicked on his account and it seemed he posted a lot more. Bakugo was in some of them, but he never looked very happy about it. There were others that he recognized from the sports festival, like the pink girl and the one that can use electricity. Some of the photos, they are in their hero costumes. One of them had the redhead's back turned, showing the burn scar on his back. It took up about half of it, but he didn't seem to hate it considering the caption was, "Gotta love manly scars." Deku heard his other phone ding, so he grabbed it, seeing he got a text from an unknown number. "Father, thank you for the journal, it looks perfect," was all the text said. Deku quickly replied with a "you're welcome" before getting back to my other phone. Most people would consider what he's doing stalking, but Deku didn't care enough right now. He lost track of time going through their accounts, each individual one that had any photos of Bakugo. The annoying thing was every time new photo appeared, the little voice would say Kachan. It was killing him by not understanding where the nickname came from, and no amount of Googling was helping. When he finally checked the time, it was almost 1:30 in the morning. Deku put his phone down and tried to sleep but had no luck. He ended up getting out of bed and putting his sweater and other stuff on before heading to the front door. For the first time, Kurogiri was not at the bar. It felt weird not seeing him there, but it also helped avoid questions. Deku left the building and looking around at the empty streets. He started walking, not exactly sure where he was going, but the voice in his head just kept saying home. He didn't want to be at home right now, so it annoyed the hell out of him. "Do you ever shut up?" He ended up at the same street he was at earlier in the day. He tapped his foot, debating if the pain was worth it, but he needed answers to his questions. Every step he took into the neighborhood made his head ache more and more. Home, 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 home. Not yet, we can go home after this, he noticed. Depending on which direction he was going, the more his head hurt. As much as he wanted to turn back and just head home, he decided to go the direction of the most pain. Was he MCST or something? His head hurt the most when he stood in front of a building that was being rebuilt. Based off how it looked, it seemed to be in the same place as the fire there. "Ranaisuku," he hissed at the sharp pain. "When I squeeze twice, you run no matter what, understand?" He took more steps forward until all he could see were flames and hear screaming. The images flashed through his head as he took a step back, trying to clear his head. "I'll love you no matter what, Izuku." Deku broke into a sprint, trying to get out of the neighborhood desperately as horrible images flashed through his mind. Part of the images seemed so real, like he is or was living through it. When he got out of the area, he plopped on the ground at a random park, trying to catch his breath while ignoring the burning pain in his ribs. It was truly annoying. Once he caught his breath, he stood back up and looked around the playground. It was small, probably meant for little kids. The bars were colorful and the bedding of the park was made with a bunch of little pebbles. The kid turned around and looked forward, thinking before stopping. This was the park from his dream last night. Everything looked the same, the play structures, the ground, the trees around the park. It was completely the same. Was that all a dream then? Were any of them actually dreams? Where was that? Home to him was with the League, but the little voice in his head said otherwise. He knew he was crazy, but this seemed too odd and coincidental to just be dreams or horrible headaches. Did his father lie to him? When he got home, he crawled into his bed, trying to calm his thoughts. He didn't get to actually fall asleep until almost 6 in the morning. "It's good to see you awake," the boy said nothing and just held his throbbing head. "It's gone hurt until your body gets used to the new quirk. Just take a few deep breaths," he said, stepping closer to him. His mind felt so out of order and his mind was racing. "What did you do?" the boy said breathlessly as tears streamed down his face. "Gave you a quirk, well, two actually, a muscle enhance, and I call it the second one, exploding BLD, basically dash." "Yeah, I got the gist of it," he said through clenched teeth. "I thought you would be happy to finally have a quirk. I didn't want it like this," he sobbed. "It hurts everywhere." "I know, it will for a couple days. Once you've adjusted to it, we can dash." I don't want dash. A hand was wrapped around his throat and was pinned to the wall, his feet not touching the ground, and he choked for air. You will not interrupt me. I've been generous with your attitude until now. I will no longer be tolerating it. Understand? He was dropped, leaving Izuku to collapse to the ground, coughing for air. Perhaps we need to play with your mind more. No, he said, panic flooding into his body. No, I don't want to forget. Take him. Once again the boy was desperately trying to get out of the men's grasp. Deku woke up in a panicked state like usual. He tried to ground himself, but this last dream really got to him. Father would never do that to him. And if he did, Deku was sure he would have remembered it. I don't want to forget. The cry rang through his head. Would he remember? He checked the time, seeing it was almost 2 in the afternoon. Kurogiri was doing his usual glass cleaning when he walked into the bar. Tamura was sitting drinking his usual whiskey when he scanned Deku up and down. You look like shit. Thanks. Did you get hit by a bus? Tamura teased with a scratchy chuckle. Just having trouble sleeping. Are you dreaming of getting hit by a bus? No, but you probably do. I do. They are my favorite dreams. Good for you? No, you're a little prick, but at least I didn't get my ribs shattered. Where the hell did that come from? Why are you always stirring shit? Because your face pisses me off. Well, news flash, you sandpaper reject. Your face isn't that much better. What did you call me? Silence. I turned my head to look at the TV. Deku, you should go talk to the doctor about your sleep. The doctor had decided to go along with father after the USJ attack. Depending on the situation, Kurogiri had to warp them there. Don't worry, I'll go out and get melatonin from some store. If that doesn't work, then yeah, I'll talk to doctor. Alright. Deku cursed to himself. Before he had left, Shigaraki started stirring the pot again. It almost got heated when Deku told him he should try lotion and gave him a dumbed-down tutorial on how to use it. Kurogiri had to warp him to his room. Before he had the chance to lecture Deku, he was already out the door. Kill him. Too reckless. As much as he would love to kill the man-child, he would rather not deal with the wrath of his father. Deku walked into a pharmacy and looked around until he found the highest milligram of melatonin he could. We walked over to the till and the total was $1. He thankfully had enough. He got the bottle and put it into his pocket. At the moment, the last place he wanted to be was at the League, so he decided to wander around. He knew where everything was all across the city at this point. He knew all the shortcuts and different ways to get to the same place. He walked while scrolling on his burner phone trying to find more information. Izuku's case went cold 2 weeks after his disappearance. Most kids that go missing these days normally don't live past 48 hours. And with the quirkless it was way quicker. They were the easiest targets. Deku waited for the crosswalk to let him cross. He looked up from his phone, getting impatient, and looked at the group of people ahead of him, but one stuck out like a sore thumb. Katsuki Bakugo. Deku has walked this route many times and all different times of day, but never once had he ran into Bakugo here. Once the boy made eye contact with him, Deku looked down at his phone. The crosswalk beeped, letting everyone cross. As Deku approached him, anxiety flooded through him. When the hell did he start getting anxiety? He's walked by heroes after killing one so many times and he was never this anxious. The second Bakugo made eye contact with the greenert, Deku turned around and walked the other direction. There's no way this guy is gonna make a scene in front of so many people, in broad daylight. Deku should have known he spoke too soon when he heard explosions coming from behind him. He turned around, seeing an angry blonde charging full speed at him. There's no FANG way this is happening right now. Izuku UBSRD. Deku groaned and started running. He did not have the mental capability to deal with this guy right now. Get back here. Deku thankfully brought some smoke bombs he had during his isolation, so he pulled on one. As he was about to use it, he had to duck down because Bakugo almost grabbed him. Sadly, this kid knew what he was doing and changed his trajectory mid-air and charged at him again. Deku activations his quirk and threw the smoke bomb, causing a large green smokescreen. He jumped into a roof and started running. He looked back, seeing the boy was looking around. I see you. Deku smiled and jumped down into an alleyway and sprinted. He put his hand in his ribs, hissing at the pain, but he kinda had no choice right now. Get back here. Deku felt a heat in his eye and could help but smile. As serious as the situation was, Deku found this genuinely fun. He didn't feel in danger in any way. This kid just wanted to ask him questions all day. Deku ran into a mall looking around before running into a store. He grabbed a random blue sweater and grabbed a magnet of his pocket. He put it on the security tag and it came off without an issue. As he was about to go to the change rooms, he could hear Bakugo yelling his name in the mall. It would be hilarious if mall security got to him. Deku put on the change of clothes and just walked out of the store. Thankfully no one really noticed he even was in there. Deku walked through the mall keeping his head down and his mask on. He passed a candy shop and swiped a couple Jolly Ranchers out of the container and kept walking. The yelling faded the further he got into the mall, making Deku less worried. He decided to walk around for a bit to make sure his coast was clear. After 20 minutes he checked over his shoulder before walking to the door. He started hearing yelling again and put his head down as he got closer. There was a group of people in a circle and some had their phones out. Deku pushed through some of the people to see what was happening. He chuckled and smiled when he saw the mall security holding his arms as he tried to get out of their grasps by yelling. Deku watched as he lowered his face mask to pop another Jolly Rancher in his mouth. Bakugo looked at him and he was said. Deku only laughed, which set Bakugo off more. Before things got out of hand, Deku waved and put his mask back on before leaving. What an amazing way to end today's adventure. Seriously? I'm not healed yet. I still have 2 weeks, Deku said, visibly annoyed. That's an order. Why don't you get off your lazy butt and get him yourself? Do you even go outside? I have my hands full over here. With what? A skincare routine? Deku Kurogyari said. Deku crossed his arms. Currently the news has been all about a new villain around in Hosu City. He's known as the Hero Killer, and of course Tamura wants to try and recruit him. Based off how he seemed on the news, he came off as a solo working kind of guy. And what if he doesn't want to? Bring him here, I'll talk with him, Deku huffed. And if he doesn't want to do that either? Make him. You do realize the guy is like more than double my size, right? He will kill me before I can kill him. It's your job, Deku. Really, I didn't notice. Thank you, Captain Obvious. You know, I'm getting really sick of your attitude these days, with that he doesn't blame Tamura for. Deku hadn't been getting any sleep, and when he did it was always weird vivid dreams that woke him up in a panic. He was irritable because of it. Don't make another mess this time. Kamui Woods is still alive. I'm still injured from that fight, not to mention the odds were completely in their favor. Just stop making messes. I'm sorry that I've been given 40 tasks all at once and told to deal with them all at the same time. It's bound to get messy. You've been sitting around doing nothing for 2 weeks. What part of injured are you not understanding? Yeah, well, I was stuck picking up your slack because you can't do your job right the first time. Did you put the costume on? Deku grinned teasingly. Deku. Point is, not all of us are lazy and sit in a bar playing video games and drinking all dash. Deku, he clenched his jaw and looked at Kurogyari. What happened to freedom of speech? When do I leave? Now, so I don't have to look at you anymore. Deku went to his room and grabbed his costume and his other things. As he double-checked everything and saw a stick of chapstick on his desk, putting it in his pocket. Once he was back at the bar, Kurogyari quickly gave him tips as to where to find this guy before handing him some money. You could be out there for a couple days. This is for food, Deku nodded. Kurogyari opened the gate and Deku looked at Shigaraki as he rummaged through his pockets. Here, enjoy the gift. Deku passed him the chapstick. As he walked through the portal, he could hear Tamura yelling at him. The warp closed the second he got through. Guess Tamura was gonna kill him. He looked around where he was left. It seemed to be a building that hasn't been touched in decades. Dust-covered crates were everywhere along with webs and mice. Burn it down. Always the violent thoughts when it comes to you, he said, referring to the angry voice. Deku walked out and was blinded by the sun for a moment. Once his eyes adjusted, he looked around at the city and the tall buildings. He's never been to Hosu before, so this was all new to him. The league was decently stable for money right now. I mean, we got food, the bar was always full, and they had some heavy-duty equipment. Deku walked down the street seeing heroes talking with civilians and others just minding their business. He checked the time, seeing it was almost 5 in the evening, and decided to go to a fast food place for his dinner. He ate his food on top of a building watching the city in action at night. There were many cars and people throughout the entire night. Just another city that never sleeps. He chewed the food in his mouth when he felt a presence. He pulled out his blade and turned around, seeing a tall man with a mask and a katana. Stain. Well, this saved Deku a lot of time. Stain, I'm assuming? Deku asked, putting his blade down to show he wasn't there to fight. You must be the rabbit, I've seen you on TV. Didn't know I had a fan base. Cool to know my name's gone around, Deku said with a smile. Why are you here? The large guy didn't show the slightest bit of emotion. It kept Deku on high alert. What other reason would I be here all the way from Yuzurifu? For you, silly. And for what cause? Well, you've caught the eyes of my lead dash. Deku felt like he was about to jeef the League of Villains. So what? They wants to recruit me? Ding ding, you win a Slim Jim. Deku said, holding one up to him. Stain just gave him a dismissive look, making Deku shrug. Your loss. I'm not interested in joining your league. I figured, Deku said, chewing. He had the lower part of his mask off so he could eat. But you still came here? Orders are orders, whether I like them or not, Deku said, laying down with his feet dangling off the edge. Tell your leader to find someone else. Why don't you tell him? I have his number. How old are you, kid? Deku looked at him. Why does that matter? You sound young and you're small. Like the Shadow Stalker. Thank you. He scoffed. But who the hell is the Shadow Stalker? Are you always this annoying? When I'm sleep deprived, yeah. Whatever. He turned around and left. Deku didn't feel like chasing after him, considering he's probably gonna have to do it anyways. Deku pulled out his burner phone and decided to type in Shadow Stalker. Turns out there was someone who wore a baggy back jacket and breathes and had 2 katanas. Most of the pictures were blurry as hell and strong to see, so Deku couldn't get a really good grasp on who it could be. According to the wonderful internet, Deku found that he was an assassin. Killed all kinds of people, CEOs, hero, anyone that would pay. He also did side jobs that involved theft and harassment. But apparently he fell off and disappeared a few months ago. How did Deku not know of this person earlier? How have you not found him? It's a new city, Tamura. I don't know where anything is. I thought you said you knew where everything was in this city? Our city, dumbass. Use your listening ears. Find him. Tamura hung up and Izuku had to take a couple breaths before he killed someone. He threw a knife into the ground and let out a frustrated yell. Fing hate this guy. It was almost 2 in the morning and the 3rd day of his search. It was made clear that the only reason Deku found Stain the first time was because he wanted to be. Then again, Deku didn't find him, Stain found him. It annoyed the hell out of him that he didn't know where anything was. No abandoned buildings, no hidden bases, or where to even go to get a decent meal. He roamed the streets checking every alleyway he could find but had no luck. Most of the heroes were off duty by now, so it was the perfect time for any villain to strike. But Deku hadn't slept in the past 3 days. Motels were too expensive and he didn't have a whole lot of money left. When did this job get so annoying? Oh yeah, from the DMN start. He was exhausted and knew he wasn't as alert. Walking around right now was probably too risky, but Deku hit a point where he didn't care. He just wanted to go home and sleep in his bed for the next couple of years. From the distance, Deku heard a yelp, making him look around. He adjusted his mask and hopped on the roofs until he heard more distressed sounds. He ran until he was out of breath and still had no luck. He huffed and kicked some dirt before sighing. He looked at the ground ready to give up and just go home when he saw a red hat covered in dirt. He looked up and realized there was an alleyway and walked into it. What's the worst that could happen when walking into a dark alleyway? He made sure his steps were light as he moved further in. He could hear sobs, and as he got in further, he could see Stain hunched over a hero who seemed fully conscious, hardly able to even lift his head, trembling. Stain liked his blade and the man just completely stiffened. No more shaking, no sounds of struggle. But he was still awake and breathing. His eyes were still moving and his teeth was heaving. Paralyzed maybe? Why the hell are you here? Stain said, not bothering to even glance at Deku. Looking for you. I thought I told you to get lost? What can I say? The League is persistent. I told you I'm not interested. My boss says otherwise. Stain liked his blade and stood up. Sadly, I'm not getting given a choice to bring you back or not. I'm tired and I want to go home. Let's make this easy. Kid, I'd get out of here before you get killed, he said, standing up. That's a bold thing to say. What makes you think that would happen? Deku looked at the man on the ground, realizing quickly it was a hero. The hero seemed more than afraid at the moment, his eyes going between Deku and Stain. This guy already knows he's dead. Come on, Stain, just hear the brat out. The brat? Never mind. I could even get us a gate over to him, so it won't be wasting any of your time. You're wasting it already. I'm clearly busy. Look, I'm not allowed to leave here without you. In a flash, Stain was in Deku's face with a blade to his throat. Guess the sleep deprivation was affecting him more than he thought. This isn't a game, kid. Go back home to your parents. Who do you think got me in this delightful lifestyle? Deku put his hand in his pocket, pulling out a grenade just in case. Stain got closer to his face as if he was trying to see through Deku's mask. You're playing with fire, kid. I'm fully aware, but I'm too effing tired to care right now. Come with me, kill me, I don't care. Either way, I'll be angry. Stain kicked him back, winding Deku as his back hit a cement wall. As he went to cut Deku, he rolled out of the way and pulled his wire. Stain watched as his BLD started dripping down his hand with a smirk. Bleeding right now is probably a bad idea. You still don't know my quirk. Something to do with consuming BLD, possible paralysis, and getting horny over a dying hero, right? Stain narrows his eyes. Pay attention. Also, where you never taught that unconscious people don't want tea. Kick his butt. Stain lunged at him again, and Deku went into defense as he flung his BLD at Stain. He blocked a hit before Stain moved back with a laugh. I thought you would have been a smarter kid. He opened his mouth, allowing his long tongue to slither to his arm where Deku's BLD was. Not so sure about that. Deku closed his fist, and the BLD instantly exploding into flames, biting his arm and tongue. Stain tried to pat it off but had no luck. Sheet. The fire will only spread and burn until you're charcoal unless you have water, but Deku looked around. I'm not seeing any. Fine. One conversation. Deku opened his hand and the flames went out, and the BLD was now replaced with burns. Deku whistled as he pulled up his phone and called Kurojuri. He's agreed. Deku gave him their address, and right after a gate had opened. Let's go. 1 second, Stain slit the throat of the hero and followed Deku through the gate with a cold glare. When Deku got back, he sighed and sat at the bar. Stain looked around and stood in front of Shigaraki. Looks like Deku did some damage. Allow me, Kurojuri said, pulling out a first aid kit. I'll be fine. Stain looked back at Shigaraki. What is your mission? Right to the point, I like it, Deku said as he sat on one of the bar stools, resting his head in his arms ready to pass out. Right now, to kill All Might. I like to kill anything that pisses me off. Like that little brats, he said, pointing at Deku. Wow, I can totally feel the love, Deku said sarcastically. Rabbit, why don't you leave the adults to talk? Deku glared. I'm more of an adult than you'll ever be, but see ya. I'll need you soon, so don't disappear, which also meant he can't sleep. Deku groaned, closing the door and heading to his room. What a pain in the butt. Deku had his music blasting while he worked on a capture device. It was a thin wire that was easy to conceal, but finding a metal that is strong enough to go that thin and no break is what's taking the longest. He tried different combinations but was still having no luck. He huffed, annoyed, until he couldn't think anymore. It had to have been an hour or so. He left his room assuming the hero killer was either part of our group or gone. He's assuming gone. Stain definitely didn't have the same motives. He tapped on his phone, looking at the black market as he entered the bar. When he looked up from his phone, Shigaraki was on the ground with a blade through his shoulder and Kurojuri standing behind the bar, seemingly unable to move. Deku blinked a couple times before bursting out laughing at the situation. Now you've been stabbed. God, you getting injured is my favorite genre. Deku took a photo of it and giggled to himself. Deku, he stopped laughing when he heard the tone Kurojuri had when he said his name. Well, shit. Deku, is your name? The boy furrowed his eyebrows. He wasn't wearing his mask, which made him realize the sheet he just got into. You really are just a kid. You don't even look over 12. I'm 16 actually. Once again making messes, Deku, Shigaraki said. This one is your fault actually, you told me to bring him here. This is the price of your dash. Deku, Kurojuri shouted. Fine, Deku pulled his wire, used his enhancement quirk to get to Stain quick and kicked him off. I'm assuming this meeting didn't go as planned. You are all a bunch of immature fools with an idiotic system. Well, we are still new to the villain community, we have our flaws, but trust when I say, we aren't just gonna stop because you don't like it. Deku stepped on Shigaraki's tea and pulled Stain's blade out of his shoulder. Missing this? Said didn't say anything. Look, we can deal with this bad BLD like civil adults. Kurogyri will send you back to Hosu and we can go our separate ways. We will stay out of your way, you stay out of ours. Sadly, our goals oppose each other. Then we will cross that bridge when we get there. The two exchanged cold glares before Stain took his blade back. Take me back to Hosu? Please reconsider dash. Deku put his hand up, silencing Kurogyri. Take him back please and thank you Kurogyri. Kurogyri stood up straight, feeling the release of the paralysis before her, rolled his shoulders back and opened a gate. It was a pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Stain. Can't say the feeling's mutual. The second he was gone, Shigaraki stood up and charged at Deku. I am gonna kill you for that? It was that or you dying. What would you prefer? He stopped and groaned, annoyed. You didn't have to step on me. Yeah, but I wanted to. He let out a frustrated sound before turning around to Kurogyri, who was pulling out the first aid kit. Deku, kill him. Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. No, do it now. I just got back. I swear to God, you overgrown bush, just dispose of him. Deku was once again sitting on top of a building eating his sushi with frustration. When is that overgrown child gonna grow the hell up? He laid down on the roof, lost in thought as his eyes fluttered shut. He was running. He ran down a flight of stairs, not turning back until he heard footsteps chasing after him. Tears streamed down his face and he barreled out of the building doors and running with all his might. His legs hurt and his lungs burned. He didn't know where he was running, but he didn't stop. He got to a park that had a police station near it. As he went to turn to head to the station, he fell into the gravel face first. He went to stand as a hand grabbed him by the back of the neck as he tried to fight them off. Kicking and punching was no use when he was attacking a man that was huge compared to him. They quickly covered his mouth as they dragged and threw him into a car. He sobbed into the corner of the car as the man sat next to him. He pulled on the handle of the other side of the car but had no luck. The car started driving while the man next to him yelled at him for crying. Soon the passenger door opened and the man from earlier entered the car. His hands were red now and he had a set-off expression. Everything inside Izuku's mind was screaming at him to get out, but he couldn't. If you keep crying, I'll give you something to cry about, the white-haired man said, not looking back at him. Izuku covered his mouth, muffling his sobs. He didn't know where they were going until a large light shined out his window. The man got out of the passenger seat once the car stopped and grabbed Izuku by the arm with a grip that would definitely leave a bruise. You see that, Izuku? The boy looked up and the BLD ran from his face. This is what happens when you don't listen to me. The building on fire in front of him forced larger tears out of his eyes, but he didn't make a sound. His home was in a blaze and all he could hear was screaming and the cracking of the fire. Mom? He said breathlessly. You won't be needing her anymore. We are gonna change the world, Izuku. You and I. What did you do? What did you do to my... I did what had to be done. You're a monster. We all have monsters inside us. One day this will all make sense. Don't you trust your father? You are not my dad. Deku gasped for air as he sat up. He looked around more frantically than usual since he didn't recognize his surroundings. He looked over the edge of the building and slowly relaxed when he remembered. He's gotta kill Stain. He rubbed his eyes and got off the building, walking to a random place to get breakfast. In his entire life, Deku didn't think he's eaten this much takeout. Kurogyri always cook for them at the league, doesn't mean it was good though. Deku walked around mindlessly trying to think about what he could do. Stain never goes out during the day for obvious reason. And since Deku didn't have a real place to sleep, he was kinda just walking everywhere. He sat on a bench eating a Slim Jim as zoned out thinking about his dream. It had him on edge. When he visited the burned-down house, he got flashes of a fire and screaming. In his dream, it was the exact same. He grabbed his burner phone and went to Google, an app he has spent far more time on than he should, and typed in the house fire. He clicked the first link and it really just said most of the same things he's read already. Missing son. Mother was stabbed and burned. Muzutafu house fire 20xx. He was getting annoyed that he could get any more information. Inko Midoriya. A soft voice said. Deku thought about it. Last time he tried to do that his head hurt so bad he wanted to smash it off a wall. He huffed and typed her name into the search bar. If Deku was Izuku, then this should tell him if he killed his mom or not. Most of the things that popped up were about the fire, but he eventually found her Facebook account. Noticed the account was still active but had literally only posted 6 times the past 3 years, and they were all photos of Izuku for his birthday and the anniversary of his death. Deku's head started hurting again, and he took a deep breath as he continued to look, ignoring the pain getting worse the more he reads. Once he got past those posts, he got to a photo of teen Izuku smiling next to Inko. She had big eyes and a wide smile. She was shorter than Izuku, but you can see the love she had for her son in the photo. He looked through the page, seeing how in each post Izuku looked younger. There were photos of Izuku and Bakugo playing in parks and doing activities. He scrolled onto a video that had a little crying baby Izuku. Deku thought it was odd that she took a video of her crying child but pressed play. You could see her out the camera down with a wide smile as she cradled the baby. Watch this, guys, she said as she started rocking the child. My darling little son. Open your eyes. Your tears are justified. The world is cruel, I know it too. But you are certainly no one's tool. Deku didn't notice he was crying until he saw a tear land on his phone screen. At this point his head once again felt like it was gonna split. He braces himself and he knees, trying to get his mind in order, but it wasn't working. For as long as he could remember, he was humming that tune, unaware of where it came from. Until now. Holy shit. I'm Izuku Midoriya.